What you doing, Husky?
Oh,
Use your words. Use your words all up.
Hey.
She's very vocal, very sassy, very spoiled. So she came to Seattle with me. She flies with me everywhere. Like, that dog is just obnoxiously spoiled.
So,
Baby girl, come here.
she's fully trained.
Oh, you tell me. Yeah.
And so, have you had any situations where she's really helped you out?
Honestly, this recent time flying, she made flying a lot more easier for me.
She just gets under your legs there?
Yeah, she just she lays at my feet. She's just very intuitive, and she knows when I'm uncomfortable, which I love. And so she like comes and like she forces her head under my hands and like just forces me to give her attention, which takes my mind off of whatever. Like, that's the biggest thing that she does for me. Just she's true emotional support. And mouthy.
Do you have treats? She's looking for treats. Nothing.
There's no treats for you. Oh.
What do you think about the CBD dog treats?
We use those.
Does it help her sleep?
It helps her anxiety when I travel. So, like, if my parents have to watch her, they'll give them to her while I'm gone. Because she gets really depressed. She won't eat. She's a lot. Like, she has the personality of a human. It's unreal.
I was at this pharmacy conference with my wife in Atlanta, and it was at the Marriott Marquis. Have you been there? It's beautiful.
Not in Atlanta, no.
Anyways, so that's a side point. But there was this guy there, and he was giving a talk on cannabis, and everyone was really excited, right? Oh, finally, a talk about cannabis at a pharmacy conference, because, you know.
Big pharma.
And he gets up there, and it was a completely negative talk about cannabis and how it's not helping anyone and how it shouldn't be legal.
That's a lie.
And then he was making fun of this woman who was paying $17 for CBD dog treats to help her dog sleep, and he was saying that it's total BS and the CBD doesn't help the dog at all. He made up some weird equation saying how the CBD doesn't even like coagulate in the dog's stomach at all, and it's just they poop it out and it's nothing. And I was like, and they had a mic, and you could get on, and I hopped up and I was like, even if the CBD dog treat acts as a placebo for the dog so that the woman feels better about calming her dog, in a sense, the woman is more calm.
Right.
Therefore, the dog remains more calm. And she wasn't talking about a dog that does what your dog does. He was just talking about a normal dog, who's like my yappy dog. But she apparently the CBD calmed down the dog, right?
Yeah, CBD is incredible.
But even if it was just a placebo to help the woman calm down, it still helped calm the dog, yeah?
Right.
So who cares?
Why?
And if it's not hurting anyone, why make it legal or illegal? Just let it be what it is.
That sucks that you had to put a negative connotation to it.
Yeah, and then this other guy hopped up and was saying some stuff, and he said that his son killed himself and that he was suffering from heavy depression. She can put his paws. It's fine. And all it came down to was it was an illegal market, and all he could get his hands on was probably a heavy indica, and he was already suffering from depression.
So where does that put you, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, well, if he had better treatment options, he may or may not have killed himself, you know. And so, like, they kept trying to make the whole thing, they're like, oh, the weed made him more likely to kill himself. And I'm like, this is
so inaccurate.
This is a pharmacy conference. What are we talking about? Is that even anecdotal? What do you call that evidence? You get out often. Where do you like to go most?
That's a loaded question. It depends where I'm going.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly, the Smokies really, the whole Appalachian just fills me.
I read your blog about South Mountain this afternoon.
Uh,
Yeah, I used to go to South Mountain all the time.
Same.
Yeah. You think you'll go back eventually?
I mean, no.
No.
No, because my favorite route to go is the route with all the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to go swimming in the water you're not supposed to go swimming in.
Yeah, we used to go all the time. I mean, we were up there, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times a summer with my friends and stuff in high school.
I really like it up here. I would live here.
You live here? You should.
Yeah, absolutely.
They say Black Mountain chooses you.
I mean, I just like the North Carolina mountains. And
Yeah.
I like how secluded it is, but not secluded.
It's really nice on this side of town because the traffic is so much less of a problem. Once you get north, west, or south, Asheville is just kind of a cluster. So,
Not a fan. I feel like it's grown so much just in like the last 3 years.
mhm.
And so I just don't like to go. I don't like people really.
Yeah. Well, she lives in Asheville, but she lives in a really nice spot. She's right there behind the Grove Park and stuff. But
Okay.
it's been difficult for us to spend much time out there, and so I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of you've talked a lot about like your life from the crash to now, right? I want to talk to you about before, long before.
Mhm.
Tell me about your childhood growing up. What was that like?
I mean, I lived the dream. Come on, Josh.
I don't know. I don't know.
I raced GNCC from 13, 12.
You started on quads, right?
Yeah. I started on mini quads. First female to podium
Mhm.
on a mini quad, and I had a blast. Oh, that was a good
How many
time.
seasons did you do? So 13 to 22? Is that right?
We did, 2005 to 2009,
So you
and then I
were
took a break.
really active when I was really active, but I was at the NCHSA
Yeah, and I never
because they didn't have quads.
right, and I didn't. I mean, I didn't live in North Carolina until 2008.
Oh, you were in Ohio?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you were doing the GNCCs up there.
Yeah, well, we did the whole series.
Yeah.
She needs attention all the time.
That's
That's,
fine.
my pride and joy.
She can pet me all day.
Uh,
So you ran the Ohio circuits. Did you do any like mid-level races too?
yeah, we did A-Works and CRA.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. See, yeah, that's completely out of my purview. I don't even know who they are.
I mean, it's like NCHS, but with quads.
Here it was like Mid-East NCHSA.
Yeah,
And they were like, mortal enemies.
it was kind of like that.
There's always two in there.
Always.
Out in Utah, there was 2.
There's always competition.
Yeah. So you ran quads. Did you choose to run, because you started running the UTV circuit, but was that post-crash?
Yeah. So growing up, I raced ATVs drag racing with my sister.
Mm-hmm.
And we raced quads on alcohol. It was sick. It was so sick. And then we met Laz from GT Thunder, and he talked to my dad into getting us into the woods and trying a different type of racing. And so we ended up in the woods.
When you say race quads on alcohol, do you mean the gasoline was alcohol? You don't mean you guys were just drunk
Yeah, no,
racing?
yeah, we were, we were 10 years old.
Some people here don't understand.
Oh, true, yeah. So like the gas or the fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a blast though. We were like 10 years old. My sister had a Z400, I had a YFC 450, and they were both on alcohol, and we just went for it.
Yeah. So you when you moved into the UTVs, you had to have some custom stuff done.
Right.
So you were using your hands.
Are you familiar with John Pellin from ATV Scene?
I know the name.
Okay, so picture this, Sicily.
Sicily.
No, I'm in the hospital. I had been injured for a week and a half by this time, 2 weeks. And John Pellin reaches out to me and he's like, hey, if I could get players on board and get somebody to build some hand controls, would you want to race in a single seat ace? And I said, yeah, duh. And so by the time I was out of the hospital, all the wheels were in motion for me to just get back at it. And honestly, I think that's one of the main reasons that I was able to transition to normal life, right? Like to adjust to this injury so well is because
you didn't lose everything.
Right. I went back to something that I knew I loved and people that I knew and loved. Like that community raised a lot of money for me.
I know.
They really came together.
Well, that's the one thing about the racing community in general. They take care of each other.
Yeah, such a tight family,
Mhm.
and I'm very grateful to have been able to go back into that and just, like I said, transition to this life a lot better. Now, when I go back to racing, I'd like to do Baja one day if possible, but like it's not a priority right now.
I keep waiting to hear you say you're getting back in because, racing is one of those things that you can do for a really long time, even if you are injured.
Yeah.
Like people, with MS race, people with, they find ways to keep going. And I keep waiting. I had a long conversation with Zach Pabin one time because, like, they were like kind of questioning you a little bit, and I said to them, I was like, listen, you guys, you need to understand, if Jesi gets her ride back, she's gone. That's where she's gonna be. She's a racer. I know these types of people. Because that's just,
With Zach and More Heart Than Scars, I'm very grateful they introduced me to OCR.
Yeah.
But they're more of like the leisure side of it, whereas I wanted to do more intense things. So like they do, your full or your half, like your 5 mile or 10 mile course, and I was trying to do like 24 hours.
Well, you're incredibly competitive.
Right. Yeah, that's just by nature,
and
regardless of what I do.
Your ambitions are a bit, and they may meet you at some point down the road with equal ambitions. They keep talking about these trips to Kilimanjaro. They have ideas in mind that are really, really ambitious, and so that could eventually be something, right? But I really kind of laid it down for him. I was like, look, she has other things she's got to do, and I in a way, I said that you had a higher calling, and they were all like, oh. And I was like, I didn't mean to burst their bubble, but it's like, you got to understand, I see More Heart Than Scars as like a transitional space for people who are healing to come in and go out.
Yeah.
Some stay for a long, long time. Some become some become it.
Right.
But then others, come in, they heal, and they move on. And you were, in a way, I think more or less, you kind of seemed like a camp counselor for others while you were there when you were working. And you were coaching and you were explaining why, hey, don't do it this way because it's going to freak me out when we were out on the track that one day.
Yeah. And now it's so cool because I'm actually training and preparing for my third World's Toughest Mudder. Mm-hmm. And so to go from that to a 24-hour nonstop course, and like this year I'm ready to go nonstop because every year the cold has taken me out, and my team and I like quit the last time, and my team, I literally started with 6 people and finished with 3.
How cold was it?
We were in Georgia that year and it got down to 28 degrees in and out of water.
Okay, and so it was just too much eventually.
Yeah, so I kind of went hypothermic.
Well, the cold here is different. It gets in the bones.
Yeah. Well,
the humidity and all that.
The next one's in Vegas, and the desert cold is it is brutal.
If you can't stay hydrated.
Yeah.
At night, yeah.
But I wear the Camel Pack. I keep a Foley catheter in, and I'm mentally ready this year. I mean, I took 2 years off, so I've been just mentally growing since then, and I'm a hell of a lot different person from 2018 to now.
Mm-hmm. What have you been doing to train?
I take cold showers.
Okay. And
I honestly enjoy it. I'm to a point now where it's like, because it's so quick, I don't have to wait for the shower to even warm
You're
up.
Just in.
Right, I'm in. I wash everything, and I'm out. And so now I'm not dicking around as much in the shower, which saves me time. Time is the most valuable currency we have, and a lot of people don't appreciate that. And during COVID, it forced me to do a time audit, and I truly spend a lot of time of my day being paralyzed, dedicated to being paralyzed, between transferring, going to the bathroom, getting my pants up and down, taking a shower, working out, getting up and down stairs. It takes my lift an entire minute to get upstairs. That adds up if I go up and down 5-6 times.
I'd be choosing very comfortable clothes.
Oh yeah, I typically don't wear pants.
It's like what are jeans?
Right, I don't wear pants when I'm at home. Yeah. I wear a sports bra and a pull up, and I call it a day.
Yeah, that's really funny. When did it click for you to with your life's purpose? Like when did you have that moment? You were like, I get this. I know what I've got to do.
This time last year.
So we're already in COVID. It wasn't in 2017 because you seemed pretty with it when I met you.
Yeah, but I I thought I had a purpose. I thought I understood it.
Maybe you had a grasp.
I could have. I've always had bits and pieces of it, right? And then COVID happened. I lost a second family member to suicide. In 2019, my niece hung herself. And then last year, my cousin shot herself.
Oh, my God.
And both times, the first emotion I had was jealousy.
Really?
And it was like a jealousy that they could do it. Jealousy that...
You're like, the balls.
Yeah, right? The fact that they could follow through with it. And then that they're no longer struggling with their struggles. They're no longer in pain.
Were they depressed? Did they have other issues going on? I don't know if you want to talk about it.
The one that shot herself was a drug addict. Had lost her child in a custody case.
She just could not quit.
She just couldn't. She'd get clean for a little bit and then would get drugged back into that same person, and it was just a really vicious cycle. And then my other cousin, or my niece, had come out that she was gay, and everyone accepted it, and I don't know if it was that, if she couldn't come to terms with it, what it was. We'll never know, obviously, but it's just it made me feel like there was a lot that I had to dig into with myself. The fact that I'm feeling jealousy that somebody's life has ended when I already had the opportunity for my life to end, and it didn't, because there was a bigger reason. So I had to really dive in deep to who I was before my injury, how I treated people, because I was entitled, I was self-centered, I had no self-respect, I had no self-love. It was really just functioning in Jesi's world and no one else mattered. And then you have this life-changing accident. I almost lose my life. And it's like I never stopped to forgive myself for who I was and address what had happened to me and address this trauma and address this change. I just kind of picked up and just started living. And I never adjusted to those emotions, never addressed them, never acknowledged them.
This was pre-accident, before?
Right, pre-accident, early accident, because from the time I got paralyzed out of the hospital, I traveled nonstop. I was on a flight to Boston that following weekend, then at Big Buck in a side-by-side as a passenger the following weekend after that, and then the race schedule picked up. So
they're just keeping you busy, and
right.
You thought, everyone probably thought, hey, let's keep her moving, let's keep her,
it was never even a thought like that. It was just all these opportunities started coming, and I took them. So I never addressed what had happened. I never even acknowledged that I'm paralyzed. Well, I had moments.
When did the self-work come in, though? Like, when did that begin?
This time last year.
Really? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was like 6 years ago, right?
In 2017, I realized that I needed to change my physical and mental diet, become more conscious about what I'm eating and what I'm consuming physically and mentally, because we never really focus on the mental consumption.
Yeah.
And we often consume a lot of trash that it's not valuable to our mental health. It's not something that improves it. So I decided to become very conscious of that, and then started working out physically and mentally, and that's why I added meditation. But I never dug deep into my psyche. I never dug deep into what had happened to me. It was more of like, okay, I'm going to do this self-work from this point on. And I never truly committed 100% to it. It was like an intermittent type thing when I needed it. And I found that in the consistency of these practices is where it truly benefits you as an individual.
And so this is what you figured out last year?
Yeah. So COVID hit. I could no longer travel.
Well, you were isolated,
right?
Too. I mean,
and then my cousin,
we all were.
My cousin had committed suicide. And then I felt that jealousy, and I was like, whoa, let me address some things. I was having shoulder issues. I wasn't able to transfer. So I had like a lot going on emotionally anyways. And being isolated, I had to acknowledge my disability. And that's when I did a time audit, realized how much time I spend being disabled. That's when I had to forgive pre-injury Jesi and accept what had happened to me and realize, I may not be able to control the circumstance, but I can control the way I move forward from it.
So how much time were you spending injured, and then now how much time are you saving yourself, do you think?
Oh, I still spend at least a solid hour to an hour and a half being paralyzed a day.
Okay. And that doesn't count like primping or like combing your hair or anything like that?
Yeah, that doesn't count like brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
I don't even primp anymore because I just don't have the time for it. It's like I have so much that I want to accomplish, and I feel like I wasted so much time dicking off. in my early injury.
Well, most people can say that about their 20s
Yeah,
in general. And I think you're, how old are you now?
29.
If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't feel bad.
I don't. I'm like, hey, aging is part of life, and anyone
Yeah.
that gets a certain type of way about it, like, you just have to understand that's life. There's nothing you can do to change it. We should not worry about things that are out of our control.
Yeah, I mean, even the best of us go back and we're like, God, 26 to 30, I could have really been, like I go back even farther. Like, so I did some radio station work at UNC Greensboro, but I was verklempt, and I didn't want to put my voice out there. And I'm just thinking to myself, God, like, if I had this idea in 2001, with a YouTube channel, like, I mean, the sky could be the limit. We could be off to the races a long time ago, but it didn't happen until COVID. So,
And honestly, I think that's where having faith really guides you in that aspect, or for me it does. It's because it's like coulda, shoulda, woulda, but there's a bigger purpose to your trials and tribulations, to your struggle, to what you go through, because without that it doesn't serve your growth if you don't experience that.
yeah.
And that growth is what allows you to find what your purpose is, find where you're at. And I just, I put my journey into God's hands, and I say, use me in the way that I need to be used. And I believe he's doing an incredible job.
Well, I was going to wait, but I want to get to a few things. So on this podcast, I like to talk with people about their dreams. But in your case, you've had a near-death experience, which trumps all dreams. I've had a few talks off camera with some of my friends. I won't name their names, but they've had near-death experiences, and they were telling me some crazy stories. When you had this happen, did you have some type of experience that brought you back, like, what the fuck?
I was an atheist before I was paralyzed.
Okay.
The day before I was injured, I went to my longtime ex-boyfriend's grandmother's funeral. As the pastor's speaking, I have this feeling of calmness come over me from my head to toes. And I knew that everything was going to be okay. And that's the feeling I had, and I heard it. Everything's going to be okay.
Day before the accident.
Day before the accident. In the moment, I thought it was Granny passing over, and that she was going to be okay. She was in God's hands now, and it was okay. Literally, the day before my accident, and I have receipts for this. It's on my Instagram. I did a whole post about how God has us the day before I got paralyzed. So then the next day, I'm in this accident, code twice. Some point while this happens, I see my grandmother. And she says, Jesi May, which my name's Jesi Michelle.
This wasn't the same grandmother that passed.
No, that was my ex-boyfriend's grandmother. This
Yeah.
was my grandmother, who has already been passed since I was a kid.
Okay.
But she always called me Jesi May. My name's Jesi Michelle. And she said, Jesi May, you can't come with me. You can't stay here. And I can't come with you. But you have things to do and
But
people to get back to.
But you met at the bridge.
I saw her. It was like a black room. She was all white. She looked like an older version, taller, skinnier version of my mom. And word for word, she told me it just wasn't my time and she couldn't come with me. I couldn't stay with her. So I wake up, I tell my mom this, and I don't remember telling my mom. And I'm back out again. And it was like 2 days into me being in the hospital. And my mom told my dad, she died. My dad thought she was full of shit. And he's like, Jackie, you're full of shit. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And so my dad got my medical documentation to submit to AFLAC. And in that, it said coded twice and resuscitated. And then later on down the road, I actually met the nurse that was in the room when I was resuscitated.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that by chance? Or
that was by chance. I went to the ER to get my foot looked at because I broke my foot water skiing.
She remembered you?
She asked how I'd gotten into the wheelchair, and I started explaining to her it was a motorcycle accident. And then she's like, wait, do you have star tattoos on your side? And I'm like, yeah.
Do I?
Yeah. And I said, do you want to check them out? I showed her, and she's like, she said, I can't believe you're still alive. I thought we were sending you to ICU to die. You're a miracle.
Nice.
And that's when the gravity of how close to not being here anymore really hit me.
Mm-hmm.
And that there has to be a bigger purpose. I mean, you don't just get brought back, be that close, and get brought back for no reason.
My friend, I'll cliff note it, but she was doing something crazy on the hood of a car, fell off, ran over her head. And she woke up in she's Mennonite, and she woke up in some hall, and there were these these like soldiers with long trumpets or something, and they were all just there, and they told her the same thing, and then she was back, and and her life took a new direction too, and it's just like, how often does this happen? And it doesn't seem so rare. And so, like, if this is the stories or the cumulative stories that are coming back from the other side, like, what can we glean from them? Even the people, there's so many people who are skeptical of this because they've never had it happen to them, and I don't want it to happen.
No.
Hey, don't go bust your head open and see if it works. That's not. But so it's just so interesting. But we also get into the dreams. I'm more so talking about my own, and I'm running out of dreams to talk about. So I'm waiting for other people now to come around. But since that event, you've gone on and lived a new life, and you've had new experiences. Have you been like in that space again in dream state or in another state where you've seen anything else? Or
no. The only thing is just no. I'm just close with I don't know how to explain it. I feel when I need the strength, I feel the strength.
Mm-hmm.
I feel, and then my purpose will come to me. It's like a warmness, and then what I'm looking for comes to me, and it's like it's handed to me, but it doesn't happen often. It's like kind of when I'm really low, I'm at my wit's end, and it's like that missing piece of life's puzzle for that particular moment. I've been trying to find it, can't find it, and then boom, it's like the help is handed to me.
I often find it when I'm out in large groups of people and events take place, and everyone needs to be a part of the community there. It happens with Zach a lot. I've been out on 7 or 8 adventures with them, and you see things kind of go sideways really quickly.
It happens. Have you got to meet Erica yet?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. That was great. So she was my mentor when I first got paralyzed.
Okay.
Because we only live about 20 minutes from each
other.
other.
Her stories.
Insane. It's crazy. You don't realize how easy it is to get a spinal cord injury until you hear some of the stories. Like I have one of my closest friends, her boyfriend dropped his gun, the safety was on, it hit the carpet, came up, hit again, and on the second one the safety came off and it shot her.
Oh my goodness.
And that's how she got paralyzed. She's like, I was just folding a sheet, next thing you know I'm on the ground in a heap.
I know. I don't know how these things happen.
It's insane.
Sometimes it seems like they're meant to happen, but then it's like there's this weird chance accident that can happen too. And it's hard to tell which is which sometimes. And I guess you just have to accept it and move on. But
well, even sometimes I feel it's meant to happen, and that person's life serves a purpose, whether it's on a large scale or within their immediate family. In their immediate circle, because you think about how that one individual changes the life of everyone she comes in contact with. Even though it may not be a large group of people, she still changes the lives of that immediate circle. So whereas I'm trying to do it on a larger scale, I feel like not everyone does it on that large scale, but they're still impacting lives and changing lives within their tight niche.
So when you were young, going back, I want to know what was inspiring to you, because inspiration did not start 12 years ago or whatever. We all have things that we enjoy when we're young. Now, you don't have to go back to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, 14, 12. What did you want to do with yourself when you were that young? What ambitions did you have?
I thought I was going to be a criminal defense attorney.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And I played outside. I was one of the guys, always been one of the guys.
Mm-hmm.
We went to the Nimi, which was like the river that was the pure treated water from the water treatment plant, and we had a rope swing, and we'd swing into it in the summertime. That's the one thing we always look forward to. But honestly, it's crazy to think about. As a kid, I would watch TV, and I'm like, particularly Disney Channel, right? And I'm like, How did these individuals get to this point? How'd they become an actor? I want to do that. But I never thought it was something available to me.
Well, that brings us to a nice transition. You now are acting.
Right. And it's beautiful to see something that I never thought I could do, and now I'm living that dream.
Well, it's really neat to see how the opportunities are coming. You want to tell us a little bit about the project you're in right now?
Yeah. So I am currently in a series called Date Me. It's currently on YouTube, but I think they're going to switch platforms. It's by Saltfire Studios. And it's about a girl in a wheelchair and her experience dating. So it's based on a true story. Kristen wrote a comic book about going on 30 dates within 75 days, all from dating apps. And every single date story is true, which is, it's beautiful because you see how disgusting some human beings can be.
Yeah, I saw a few excerpts. It was pretty funny. Yeah, and you play an antagonist in the film.
Yes. So my character is not a real person. She was created solely.
Yeah. Was she kind of like her inner conscience in a way? Like the person who wrote it?
No.
Okay.
No. The director actually created Gabrielle. And I'm so excited for the second episode because people will finally see why I'm such a mean individual and how I take what's happened to me out on everyone else.
Well, actually, I read one of your blog posts today, too. I read like 3. And you were talking about how, like the physical injury, the physical things heal, but the mental stuff people just don't see, and it's still kind of there, and it's on the surface when you lash out at your friend or your family member. So let's talk about CTE for a second. We'll dive back in. I don't know. Can we show an excerpt from that short film later? Or?
Yeah, I can, if you want it for later, I could send you my reel. My reel is just that.
You can send the reel to my Facebook Messenger, and she can pull it up at some point.
Okay.
But can we talk about CTE?
Yeah.
It seems like you took a real headbang there. Yeah.
I have a slight brain injury on the frontal lobe, so sometimes I insert conversation that just doesn't make sense in the context of our conversation.
Is it like too late or too early? Or
no, it's just off the wall typically. It's just something that just doesn't go.
Could work well for you though, comically.
I know. I know. I could be a sit-down comedian. I think about it all the time.
That's funny, see? Yeah.
But I think the worst thing about it is having to really consider what I'm saying and what's coming out of my mouth, and how I address people, and really being conscious of not acting solely on emotion and stopping that, exactly what I'm thinking from coming out. Because sometimes I say very hurtful things unintentionally because in my mind it sounds better, but then when I think about it, it's like one of those things, your first reaction, sometimes there's a moment where I just can't stop it from coming out, and it just comes out, and I'm like, crap, I'm sorry, like, I didn't mean that, my bad. And people really get their feelings hurt.
Well, yeah. C'est la vie, A lot of people getting their feelings hurt these days.
Oh my gosh, they can get over it.
Yeah, I think we just kind of need to say what we need to say and move on. And, apologize when necessary. It's a lot easier to ask for forgiveness, in my opinion, than it is for permission. And I don't want to be asking people for permission to say certain things I want to say.
Right.
So, what are you doing, or what have you done, I should say, to treat your CTE over time?
A lot of meditation and breathing.
Yeah.
And just getting inside of my own mind type of thing is really what works for me.
Go ahead, finish.
You go ahead.
What do you do when you don't have time to meditate?
There is not time to meditate.
Yeah.
You make time. No, you make time. If it's a priority to you.
I'm down here in my studio trying to get ready for this show, and my wife's telling me stuff to do, and my kids screaming. And
I don't have a child or a husband, so
I'm like, hey, I need some time. I need 45 minutes to prepare myself.
It's setting boundaries too.
It's so easy to get scattered.
You have to set boundaries for yourself, because if you don't take care of your mental health, your physical health, your well-being, how do you expect yourself to be able to take care of everyone else around you and all the other responsibilities that you have?
When you work from home, everyone thinks that you're there.
Yeah, I do. I have that struggle with my parents. They constantly think, especially my dad, I love him to death, but he thinks I don't do anything all day. And I'm like, dude, I'm literally working my ass off all day because I don't want to live in your basement forever. Mm-hmm. You ever think of that? Like, hey.
That podcast doesn't hold as much value to him as it might to people our age.
Right.
Stuff. And, because I see you on a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
You guest star often.
Yeah.
And I think that you do the rounds. It seems like everybody wants you on their show. Here you are on mine.
I mean, I try to do 2 a month. I think I see it as an opportunity to get your story out there, get your mission out there, reach an audience that you typically wouldn't reach, and then on the flip side, help that podcast reach an audience they typically wouldn't reach. Mm. So you're exposing yourself to a different audience and them to a different audience. So it's really a win-win for both parties.
That's exactly the point.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what they're supposed to do.
That's what I love about them.
Yeah. With each guest, we get a regeneration of interest from that guest's individual unit of, usually people have about 200 people that follow them pretty closely.
Right.
100, 200. And so maybe 85. Some of the people are, they're just not famous. They're just normal people. And that's what we want. We want regular people in here to talk with us about life and what that means to them. And so you can't, I don't know. That's part of my whole shtick is I don't want to chase that concept of I have to have the most popular people on and schmooze these people who are always, running the circuits.
Right.
I want to bring people on who've never done a podcast before, but then in, episode, 16, you come on and you do them all the time. So we get this good blended mix of people, and I think that that's helpful.
I feel like I really enjoy podcasts because I really enjoy going back and re-listening to them. Mm-hmm. I've listened to every podcast I've been in, mainly because I like to come up with my own description of it.
Yeah.
Because I send it out on an email blast out of my email subscription list. So, I want to have a personal description of it to send out to them. And because I can gain value from it as well.
Oh, I know. I marvel over... I have to watch every one because I have to go back and edit them. But I'll marvel over all of the things I say, and I'm like, God, why is my voice so high? Stuff like that. And so I start working on trying to make myself a better interviewer, a better listener. And it's hard because sometimes life will come at you really fast right before you come on, and then I'm sitting there thinking about all the bullshit that just happened to me 45 minutes before, and it gets me out of my zone, and so you got to really take time.
My time with the Paralympic developmental team for curling really helped with the mental management of stress. Because you have to, regardless of what's going on outside of that one mission, you have to be able to block that out while you're on the ice. You're
not done with that though, are you?
I am for now. I've put a lot of things on the back burner just to really focus on.
You were good though.
Yeah. I mean, I'll still play for fun, but there's a lot of politics behind it as far as people need to be vaccinated, and where I sit on that. I'm just.
And you have good reason to be conscious of it.
So I'm taking a moment to just really focus on myself, Wheel With Me Foundation, and building my fitness brand. Right now I'm in the middle of getting my personal training certificate. So I really want to just focus on helping people for now.
Well, I talk about dreams. I had a dream with you in it one time, and you were, I was with you, and we were at the Olympics, and you were going to be competing. And I didn't know what in.
It could be archery. It could be curling. It could be.
It was the Paralympics.
Yeah, there's no telling where I'll be.
Yeah, but it was. I called you that next day. I was like, "Hey, man, dreamed you were in the Olympics." I don't think you. And then you told me about your curling.
Yeah, that's back when I was.
And I was like, that's funny, because I didn't know about it when I called you.
It's fun. It's a fun sport. It's really underrated.
Yeah, I would really get into doing the form with the leg and
the whole delivery. Yeah.
I would really get into it. I would exaggerate it.
You're perfect age for the curling team. Our last U.S. men's team. Yeah, they're all dads. A bunch of dads out there on a Sunday, just hobbying around.
I wish Asheville Black Mountain had two things. I wish we had an ice rink, and I wish we had a velodrome. You know what I'm talking about, Charmaine, with the bikes? Mm-hmm. I wish we had one of those.
What is that?
It's so the banked corner circle wooden track
Yeah.
where people ride their bikes really fast and they wear spandex and the long helmets that swoop.
Yeah. I know now.
I'd really like to have one of those nearby. There's one down in like Greenville, Spartanburg.
I was gonna say, I don't think that's like a common thing.
No, but there's so much cycling up here that I think it would catch on.
Oh.
It'd be neat. Tell me a few stories that aren't injury related. I feel like, you know what I mean?
That's fine. I can't.
I feel like we get, like, whenever, does it ever get old talking about it? Because I feel like everyone always asks you about it.
It's such a big, it's the elephant in the room, right? It's a big part of my life, but there is a lot more to me. One of my favorite experiences from this year, I went to this fitness festival called Summer Smash in St. Louis, and it was amazing. I had 2 of my clients that came out, met me there. We met in real life for the first time at this event. And we ended up, there's 6 wheelchair users and then like thousands of able-bodied fitness people around us. And they all included us so much you didn't see our disability.
Nice.
And I think that was the most beautiful part about it, was forgetting that we were disabled and just being included in the party and the crowd and the atmosphere and the vibes.
Yeah.
I love when people forget that I'm disabled. And I have a few friends that are like that, where like my one friend Amber, I was pulling into the accessible parking spot and she's like, Jess, what are you doing? This is a handicap space.
And you're like,
I'm like, Amber. She's like, oh my God, I always forget.
That's funny.
And I think that's the best feeling, is whenever people see past it and they see you for you.
Well, the series you're acting in is about dating and being in a wheelchair. What's dating like for you in real life? Don't say non-existent. I'm sure you get passes all the time.
So I get on Bumble when I want attention and I just want reassurance that I'm pretty.
You don't need reassurance.
Sometimes I do. Sure. Sometimes I just like it. I like attention. I'm a human. And I don't like getting attention on Instagram, because my Instagram is more of like, let me motivate you. Let me show you how to get after life. So like that's a private way for me to get some attention and get more Instagram followers too.
I don't even know what Bumble is.
It's like Tinder, but
oh really?
It's typically it's a lot more classy, but like that's the extent of it. Honestly, I'm at a place right now where if the person comes, they come, but I know exactly what I would like in a partner. As far as like, they need to be fitness oriented, they have to have big dreams and goals of their own. They have to be self-motivated, self-disciplined, driven. I don't want lazy at all. You had to have a clean diet, like, because I'm the type of person where I'm very strong on my own, but if it's someone that I'm partnered with, I feel like I could give in to that peer pressure and their shitty lifestyle.
Well, you see that in relationships a lot, when like one of them was an avid dancer and then they marry someone who doesn't dance, and then that was their outlet, you know, and you're like, oh, they just gave up basically like what identified them in a way,
right, for
the person that they're with. And that's just sometimes really sad to see.
And that's how I feel like I would end up, because I like to compromise. I am a normal human. I'm a people pleaser. And so I really like to make other people happy and do what they want to do.
You're a softie then.
I am. I have this like hard exterior, but I'm a very big softie. And so I just know I'm also not in a place that I'm willing to give up my time. I'm building a brand. I'm building a nonprofit. I'm getting an education. I'm doing all these great things. I'm acting. I travel a lot to speak. So it's like, I don't want to give that up I don't want to give my time to someone else right now. Like when I'm home, I'm home. I enjoy spending time with my parents. I enjoy that family quality time. But I also enjoy being alone. I enjoy being with my dog. So it's like...
Well, as a married man, I can say that you can have that. You can have your cake and eat it too most of the time. And there is a give and take. There is a give and take, especially once you hear the footsteps.
Yeah, I know. I love.
That will show up in the night. Especially once you have little ones running around, and should you choose to. I mean, that's your prerogative. But I don't know. When you find that person, a lot of times you kind of become one with them in a way, and you are alone when you're with them. In a way.
Well,
there's
no,
alone.
I get that. I 100% get that. And if I if that person comes across my path, then I am open to it, but I'm not actively looking. I'm not going on dates. I have no desire to go on dates. I have no desire to play that game. I have no desire to play any games or time. I'm not willing to make the time to do it again. Like, I am so focused on building myself solid and getting to a point where I could comfortably move out of my parents' house and I choose to live there, not that I have to.
Now,
go ahead.
when you decide to move out, and and they've been really great, and I know that and we all know that, like, it's been a tough road. But when you do make the move, they'll be really sad, I bet. But will you stay close?
Yes. Until my parents pass.
Is Black Mountain close?
I know.
Is Asheville close?
Honestly, my mom would probably be open to moving. Like, ideally, I want to be with my parents until they pass. I would like to. My ultimate goal is to get to a place where I could build a mother-in-law suite and they could have their own area. That way, they're close by, because our time with them is so limited, and I've been very conscious lately about. There's going to be a day where all I'm going to want is my mom calling me, asking me where the hell I am and why I haven't checked in. I'm going to want to argue with my dad over something dumb or his diet or whatever
politics
we argue.
or whatever.
No, we don't argue over politics. We're all we're on the same side in their house.
Yeah, not at mine. It was always something.
No, we're all on the same page. It's just really nice. We watch Tucker together and everything.
Oh, Tucker.
Yeah.
Hey, second time, Charmaine. In 2 episodes, he's come up. Sorry.
I love him. I just love his face. He's so angry all the time, but then
I don't know.
Smiles, it's great.
I mentioned him in passing in a previous episode, and I didn't even realize I did it until she reminded me. And like I catch whiffs of him. But I just, because they're still in that corporate conglomerate media, like, box, I still take everything they say with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And I can't just dive into it, even though I have gone down several rabbit holes on my own. But his format's not so bad. It's very Good Morning America. But Miss Owens, her format really annoys me, because she's reading her tweets and people are applauding her tweet, and it's all white people applauding her tweet, and I'm like, I don't want to get back into it because I talked about it last time, but it was just really annoying. And she says things I like, and then she says things I don't like, but then also there are other people in the gamut of that I can listen to too, who have nothing to do with a conservator or a conservative mindset.
Right.
I try to get as much as I can from both sides, but it's been really hard lately.
We have to be objective in that sense and be willing to look at both sides to either reaffirm our views or open our mind to a different view. Like, that's what that opposite view is going to do for you. It's either going to open your mind to something different or reaffirm what you already believe and know.
I get that from my sister. And she and I go back and forth. She's staunch Democrat, and I claim a liberal conservatorship of some kind. But I don't, I'm always kind of flip-flopping on some issues.
Same.
And I don't know what to think. But she's like very, very left right now. She's not like Antifa, but it's enough, And I don't really know how to respond to her sometimes, because the argument with the left is often riddled with really large words and judgments. And there's a lot of focus and complaining on what's wrong with the country, what's wrong with the world. And there's not as much acceptance for where we are, or as much gratefulness for what we have. So I get really frustrated with that too, because I try not to focus on the negative.
Now, do you agree with this? It feels like the far left almost uses that negativity to their advantage, and that's what they want those people to feel. Like, a lot of people that are on the left have that victim poor me mentality. Like, the far left is what I've ran into. It's like they use what's happened to them as an excuse. They're using it as a crutch, rather. And it's like, for example, I have an eating disorder. Oh, gosh, there's no way. And people become this victim of their circumstance of like, there's no way I can overcome this. They define themselves as their struggle rather than using that struggle to uplift them. And in my experience, the people on the left, that's kind of what I ran into. And now it's this chain reaction of like, all right, I identify as left, so this is the way I live my life type of thing.
I identify as left for my entire life, and then all of a sudden...
Same.
I was not left anymore.
Right.
And they let me know. Like, I was no longer in the clubhouse. I was, like, outside of the clubhouse.
They kicked you out.
With a Facebook ban of, like... No, I never got banned. But, you know what I mean? Like, you did?
Of course I did.
Yeah.
You know me.
I've never been banned, but I feel like I might have, like, been shadowed somehow at some point.
I get shadow banned regularly on Instagram.
Like, video counts went way low after the beginning of the year for me. And other people I know. And I've quickly learned how to kind of run against the algorithms at play to get views. And so we're kind of back up to where we were, but not really. Like, we're at 50% where we were. In 2018, you know, I would easily see 1,000 views, maybe 890 views on a video. And then this year, it was like 35 videos. 35 views, you know what I mean? And that was just like really weird because we had just started the whole podcast and I was like really excited about it. I'm like, we got good content. Finally. And I post and it's like, it set at 0 for like 4 hours. And then finally it started ticking and I was like, okay. And then it was like 12 views. And then by the end of the next day, it was at 30 views and it stopped. And I was like, okay. And so I learned that if I post to groups, I'm really good. But
yeah.
YouTube, I've never had luck there.
No. YouTube is, you have to repost YouTube in all the places. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Like, having the swipe up link, I will say it's a nice tool for Instagram.
You earned it, right?
Yeah.
You got to a point, I don't know how many...
10,000 followers is when you get it.
And you're 5 times that now.
But it's crazy because the algorithm's so funny, and I know that I'm being shadow banned because I'll talk about something political. I spend a week, very low, great content, low engagement, and then I'll post a couple things, and all of a sudden it's like normal engagement for my following.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you doing Reels?
Yeah, I hate Reels, but yeah.
But is that where you are? Is in Reels?
And you do so. Ideally, it's one
IGTV.
static post or IGTV a week, and then the rest Reels.
And you have more action on your Reels than you do typically.
Well, it depends. It really depends.
Not for me.
So for me, it really depends because I get a lot of action on my posts when I'm not being shadow banned. So I'll post something political, all my views will go down. All of a sudden, they'll go back up, and as soon as I post something political again, boom, they're back down. And I'm like, it's been this roller coaster for probably 3-4 weeks now of going through this cycle, and it's just really frustrating because it's like, why am I even making content at this point? If like,
well, let me tell you my stories. Short. They're not my Instagram stories. They're my Reels story. So I use my Reels more like family engagement, and I don't really try to make my Reels my professional thing, even though it's going out through Josh Lee Media. But it's just like my kid and me playing and like whatever. And eventually I might start trying to bring this thing in, but I don't know how to truncate a 3-hour podcast into 1 minute. Like, I'm just not at that point.
So
I just haven't figured out how to really cut that right.
The best thing that I would do is get 4 or 5 topics and do 4 or 5 1-minute quick hits. Like,
yeah.
That way you could just post it as a reel, and you have like 5 teasers that you could promote for an entire week. You're promoting 1 podcast interview.
Well, this is what happens to me though. It's just family stuff, but I won't post anything for a week or 4 days, and I'll come back on a Tuesday. Tuesday morning's a really good time to post, and I'll have a really cool little short video of my lava lamp, or of like the studio, or just like my kid doing something cute. And that first video will like go into some kind of weird algorithm stream, and it'll be there for an hour, and in an hour it'll hit 4,800 views or 1,700 views, more than 1,000 views typically, right? And I'm like, whoa, And then I'll post again 2 hours later, 90 views.
Yeah.
And then I'll do 3 more, and they're all 100 views, 200 views. But that takes a week. Like, they get them over a week. And then I won't post again until the following Tuesday morning.
And it's the same thing.
And it's the exact same thing again. And so I'm learning, okay, well, Tuesday morning is my time to get that one out. So now I'm thinking about the journal and how I can use one of those videos to stream in. And the funny thing is, I just did this tutorial on YouTube today. I was like, wow, that's mind-blowing. But one thing that people are doing to build their channels up is they're creating these, like, they're going on stock media sites and buying, like hipster stock video that's just, like, rolling water or some type of, like, meditation track, like, for visuals. And then they go and they download a meditation track that's Creative Commons song, and then they'll loop it for 3 hours, and then they'll put it on their YouTube channel, and they'll sell it as meditation video, and then those videos are apparently thrown into a stream too on YouTube. And so they're building their channel up because they'll have their podcasts and their how-tos, their tutorials, but then they'll have this weird playlist of just like
meditation,
flowers blossoming with meditation music under it, and those all have like 323 million views, and then their followings start to go up. And I'm like, well, okay, I have a lot of stock video. I could do this, maybe make that a thing, do some virtual tours, put them in music, and so.
It just...
But it's weird you gotta play this weird game.
That's what I was about to say. It just takes so much patience to play the social media algorithm game.
It's gonna take like 50 of those videos to even get traction.
And it's like, at what point is it worth it? Is it not worth it?
The guy was showing how much money he was making per month, and I'm like, fuck him. I'm making $59,000 a month. I'm like, really? Are you really though? Like, and he's got his silver plaque behind him on the wall. The YouTube plaque, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you're chasing the Joneses or whatever, right? Sorry, I got uncomfortable.
That's how it feels, though. It's like, at what point are you chasing what other people are doing and trying to keep up with that, or are you in your own lane doing your own thing?
I'm obviously in my own lane.
Right.
Right, but my own lane doesn't have any people driving in it.
Right. Well, you can't. So one, you can't compare because when they first started, they were in their own lane with no one else driving in it as well. And I think the hardest thing for us to even accept and be okay with is the fact that time is what it takes to grow. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to grow to where you want to be, but it's going to be that time.
I'll be
really
like 42
right
before it happens. 3 years. I give myself 3 years, I think.
Yeah, 3 to 5 years is what is really truly what it takes.
Yeah, and I've been at Ridge Journal for 5 years already.
Right.
And it has been a pain. Like up and down, hills everywhere.
And that's the nature of the journey, though.
Well, Charmaine and I were talking off camera before you got here. Man, like, it's not just about having a lane, but it's also staying in your lane because of all the COVID bullshit. And she was like, hey man, the last couple of podcasts have like, they seem to all be going back down these rabbit holes, like, I see them like whirlpools when we're riding a jet ski, and like we keep getting pulled into these weird COVID whirlpools, or like we start talking about the trans debate or whatever. And it's always a constant. It's a constant in every conversation we're having. And the guests are coming in, and I'm fielding them how they come. But like, Carlos was on here Tuesday, and he had plenty to say, about the vaccinations. And then Ty was on here, Thursday, and boy, he wanted to go down some rabbit holes real hard. And it's like, how do you keep yourself centered in, especially, as an online personality in the times we're living today? What are you doing? Because, I see where I'm going down the same rabbit hole as you're going down. You're wearing Lions Not Sheep? Come on. Okay? Like, you're immediately putting a basket with that jacket on. We should have worn members only. I have 2 of them.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We could have done that.
wearing lions, not sheep. I'm making a political statement without even saying anything political.
I knew you were. I didn't mean to bring it up.
No, that's fine. That's the whole point. We don't have to voice our opinion with our mouth. We can voice our opinion by supporting patriot business. And it comes back to, I stay focused because I'm an American. I love being an American. I love that this country literally offers every opportunity that you want to chase in your life. You literally have the opportunity to wake up, be whoever you want. And on top of that, as a disabled person, my government gives me a wheelchair. My government pays for my supplies.
Where would you be? Yeah, I don't mean to go here because this is going to sound stupid. But where would you be, like, if this had happened to you in, like, a second world country?
I'm glad that's where I was going. You literally went right where I was going.
Like,
so
I almost said China, but China's so first world. It's
Nigeria.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard to say China because you'd probably be doing pretty well.
So
I mean, they take care of each other over there, it seems, for the most part. Knock on wood.
well, I'm also a woman, so
Yeah.
that's a different conversation though. But say I lived in Nigeria, I became paraplegic, and this is based on a true story. There's a gentleman, Destiny. He lives in Nigeria. Got paralyzed the same year as I did.
His name's Destiny.
His name is Destiny.
Okay.
Got paralyzed the same year as I did. He's still bedbound. He doesn't have a wheelchair. He gets his Foley catheter, which is the indwelling catheter, changed every 6 months. It's supposed to be changed monthly, but that's all his family can afford. So no supplies are provided to him by his government. No wheelchair is provided. He's literally stuck in the bed. And it's like, at what point, is it you got to help yourself, but at the same time, it's like, how do you have enough hope in that situation to help yourself?
The government pays for your wheelchair.
Medicare
Pays for your
every
wheelchair.
5 years.
Carlos was in here. Carlos Alfonso, he has MS.
Okay.
He was in here. He was in a very similar wheelchair to you. He actually has a wheel around, which he uses with his hand, and it's got a motor. But then he also has a non-motor one, which he chose to bring because I had to go pick him up, and getting the hover around or whatever it's called in here is
Right.
It's really heavy. And he was the whole ride over. He was like, "God, man, this fucking thing was $2,800, and the Medicare covered this much of it, but it was still an astronomical amount of money." And I'm over here, and it was lime green, and I'm like, God, I could get a Kawasaki for the same price, like,
Medicare pays 80% of everything. So, for example, my bladder spasm medicine every month. The medicine I take so I don't pee myself.
It's expensive.
$300 a month I spend not to pee myself, and that's not counting every 6 months I pay another $200 to get Botox.
So he's getting the Botox in his stomach so that he can actually eat.
Okay, so I get it in my bladder so I don't pee as much.
Yeah. Okay. That's crazy, man. How much that's... I mean, it just seems to add up and add up.
It does.
But the bloated cost of our healthcare system reminds me of, like, the bloated cost of, like, the military spending. And, like, the CIA, like, a pen cost $9,000, like a writing pen. You see that in their dockets at the end of their statements. It's like there's all these things that should cost, like, pennies on the dollar, but they seem to all cost like thousands of dollars. Why is everything so expensive in our country? And is there a sweet spot somewhere on our beautiful marble where the price of things isn't so exorbitant and you're getting the same care? Like, is there a place, like, on the planet where that happens? Sorry, hard question.
I know a lot of people want to lean on socialized medicine and have a healthcare similar to Canada. But the only issue with that is if, like, you ever look at our VA, for example, think about how long these individuals have to wait to get treated if they get the correct things. Things are always being messed up, and it's the same in Canada. I have wheelchair-using friends that can't get in their doctor within a month. It's like 6 months, then they can go see them. And so then it creates this delay. I think that our healthcare system could be more individualized on a state level. So, for example, Medicaid, I don't qualify for because my disability payment's too much. They don't consider, to get state-funded insurance, it's not considered your ability, it's considered your income. And that's a little frustrating to a point because I have more needs than an able-bodied person using Medicaid. I have more needs when it comes to prescriptions. So say I had Medicaid, then my prescription drugs would be covered. My Botox would be covered. I wouldn't have as much out-of-pocket cost to be paralyzed.
So do they consider your Botox cosmetic?
No.
Okay.
No, it is medical.
Well, it's Botox.
Yeah, I know. I always am like, hey, can I get like a couple here and here? Cool, thanks.
Just rip me a few off. They'll never know.
He's always like, no, we can't do that. It's wild to watch. They put a camera up your urethra and you literally watch on a screen, watch them injecting your bladder. It's a little painful, but it's great because it works.
Keeps you moving, though.
Yeah.
What keeps you up at night?
Oh, no. Yeah, no. I honestly, I sleep great. I don't have the issue of worries and doubt, which is beautiful because I do a lot of visualization. I'm very connected with my why. And any time I question my worth or if what I'm doing is the right thing or if my goals are obtainable, I revisit my why, which my why, number one, is to help other wheelchair users realize how strong they are, that they can be independent, that they are capable of living whatever life they want to live, and that their disability is not going to hold them back. And then also to show the able-bodied community the same thing and make us included, make people stop treating us like we're different. So the other day I'm at the Y, I'm doing chest, I'm transferring from the machine, adding weight, unracking weight, switching machines, and every time I transferred to my chair, this guy came and grabbed my chair. And I'm like, I've got it. Thank you. But I've got it. And I was nice the first 4 times, just 10 times I transferred, and this dude grabbed my chair every time. And I'm like, look.
I think he liked you.
No, his wife was right there. I'm like, he was like my dad's age, and I'm like, look, I understand you want to help.
Yeah.
But you're not out here helping everyone else. You're not out here treating all the other women this way. Just because I'm a wheelchair user does not mean that I don't have it. I would not be in the gym independently if I didn't have it. Or I would, and I'd be learning, and you're taking away from my learning experience. So please let me just work out in peace. Please. Like, I don't, and I think that's one of the biggest things that deters me from going to the gym is people go out of their way to treat me different. I'm like, yo, just let me get my workout in. I'm trying to do the same exact thing you are in peace.
Yeah, my gym situation's gone to crap. I've been working out here at home. I don't know, like I just lost all ambition to go out to a gym for some reason. I just got kind of like reclusive out of nowhere. I don't know, I got weirded out by a few vibes at the gym I was at, and then I just said, you know what, I've got the medicine ball here, I've got sandbags, let's just do it here. But when you're here, it's not as easy to do it because like we were in there at 6 a.m. and it was like 3 6 a.m. classes, and I was like, okay, I can get this in. But I also felt like those workouts were pretty weak, but at the same time a weak workout's better than no workout. And so, but I've been riding my bike a lot, and I've just kind of been in my comfort zone on my bike, if you want to call it that. My tank doesn't call it that, but I'm over here like putting in like 30 miles on the bike, but my body's used to it now.
Right.
And I know I need to cross train. I know I need it, but I just can't bring my body to do it. How do you motivate yourself when you get in those ruts? Like you're good at one thing and you're doing that one thing great, but it's just not enough to keep everything going.
Why do you work out in the first place?
I want to create a better life for myself. Also, I'd like to live a long time. And so that's
why?
So that, why do I want to live a long time?
Why do you want to create a better life for yourself, and why do you want to live a long time?
Well, that's a great question. Well, I really I like life, and I want to prolong it as long as I can because I enjoy being around my family, my friends. I love the aspect of my work, and I feel like I'm onto something, and I see the potential, and so like I don't want to stop, and COVID puts this thing in your head where you're like, well, don't stop now, don't get fat, because that's a comorbidity. And if you have a comorbidity, you're gonna, potentially die faster than you would otherwise. And so, like, that's keeping me kind of motivated.
But why for your family? But why for your business?
Well, for one, like, I don't want my daughter to get fat because she sees me that way. My dad was heavy set, and he died at 63, and boy, that put a light under my fire, And at the time, I mean, I'm in much better shape than I was then now, but I was still trying, but it was weird,
So you notice how the first answer you gave me was something so surface, and then we got to the third answer and it was your daughter, and it was so much deeper, and then it goes back to your dad. That's how I maintain motivation. I do layers of why. Like, for example, now...
I mean, we could have peeled 7 more back.
Yeah, and we could keep going, but that's how I stay motivated. And so, like, rather than, for example, I want to be a first form elite athlete. Why? Because I want to inspire the wheelchair community to be an athlete.
I've done some first form videos.
I love it. I seriously, the company changed my life. It changed so much between it gave me a lot of purpose.
Yeah, they showed up for me when I was out in Utah, and I was doing some stuff for actually a guy here named John Seaman.
Really?
He's a racing guy too, motorcycle guy, but he's in really great shape. He was doing first form stuff.
That's rad. I dig that.
Yeah, good stuff. Shout out John Seaman. but I mean, it's just really hard to not get in those ruts when you work from home.
I work from home. I have my family that constantly is my parents. Well, can you go to the pharmacy for me? Can you do this for me? It's setting boundaries, and it's also maintaining that deeper level of why, not just that surface why. It's digging into that. Something I've recently added to my day is I spend 5 minutes every night before I go to bed. Last thing I do before I shut the light off, I journal. So first is my mission,
it's really good
my
for you.
3 tasks that I have to get accomplished tomorrow, and then I journal about my day, mainly because I really want to write a book. But I've noticed it's allowed me to fall asleep easier. I sleep more sound. My thoughts aren't running around. I get everything I'm thinking about out, and then I move on. And so you're kind of quieting your mind a little bit, and you're expressing yourself. And again, because you're putting your mission first, you're going back to that why. What is my reason? What is my purpose? Why am I doing these tasks every day? Because that's something that, in the moment, you're like, why do I need to go to the gym? Like, I don't want to do this. Why do I need to work out at home? I have other things I could do while I'm home. And it's a battle that I even have with myself. But then I go, well, why am I working out to begin with? What is my purpose for this?
Yeah. When I journal, I write poetry. And that kind of puts things in perspective. It really just kind of lays my fears down onto a page. A lot of times it's just my fears. That's why I realize. And I'm riddled with them, apparently. But I get them out of the way, and then I can kind of move towards the positive things that I need to focus on. I like to write in the morning, like 4 a.m.
Right.
That's when I do my best to really focus my day for the energy of the day. Writing at night, I typically read at night, though.
I'm opposite. I read first thing in the morning, and then I journal at night.
Yeah, I try not to pick the phone up in the morning.
Yeah, I turn the alarm off and move on.
I also write on my phone, though, because it's more convenient. I don't know, maybe that's toxic, but it's easier for me.
I get sick of looking at screens. I feel like that's all we are, is just constantly looking at a screen, so I just pen and paper, call it a day.
Yeah.
But I think routine is key, too. Having a solid routine, making that routine, like, this is who I am, this is who I'm going to be. And really defining yourself and not letting your past define who you want to be tomorrow. Too often we have who we want to be tomorrow, and then we have our past, and we allow our past to continue to run us rather than really trying to strive to be that person that we want to be. And so then there's no growth in that. Something that I talk about with my clients often is, well, your goals are not aligning with your habits. So the two are never going to collide. So if you would like to reach your goals, then you need to change your habits to reach those. If you like your habits, then you need to change your goals to align with those. But the two can't keep not aligning, because they're never going to meet. And you're not going to hit what you want in life if you don't change one or the other.
When have you let go of certain aspects of your character as like a past pretense of your life? Like, that's who I was. I'm going to let this part of me go, and I'm going to move on. Like shedding your own skin in a way. Has there been a moment like that for you?
Oh, absolutely.
And does it happen often?
Not so much now, because I'm really defining myself as who I want to be, and I'm truly living that now. Whereas before, I had this idea of who I wanted to be, but I was still living in old habits, whether that was binge drinking, recreational drugs, going out every night partying, not having a solid routine, doing nothing for personal development, calling myself names. That's something that I do not do. I do not talk down to myself. If I wouldn't want someone else saying it to me, I don't talk down to myself. And I think one of the biggest things is letting go of judgment, both your judgment for other people, because who are we to judge what someone else is doing and how they are living their life? We can't continue to judge people for what makes them happy and the life they choose to live. And then we go back and then we start judging ourselves. And it's like, I should be in this place. I should be this person. Yeah. And it's all these judgments that really take effect of our self-confidence and who we want to be as a person. And I feel like the judgment is truly what holds us back and what creates a lot of that fear, is because you have this judgment of where things should be, where you should be, how the people around you should be. And when you let go of all that and just be in your moment, life is pretty dang easy. It's a lot more bearable.
When you get into that moment or that headspace of the moment, time seems to slow down a lot. I was on my bike the other day again, and I decided to go farther. And I had a time limit. I had to be back by 1:30 because my wife had to run a bike ride with some girls. And I was like, I can make it to Montreat. I can make it up there. And I was just like focusing on getting there as quickly as I could. Like I was on like a timeline, like a race, but by myself. And I got up there and I was like, I can go to the top of the mountain. Wow, look at that. It hadn't been 15 minutes. And I was like, if I can get to the top by 1:15, I'll make it home by 1:30. And I did it, and I was so proud of myself because I ended up pulling off like 20 miles where I would have only done like 11 had I just turned around and gone home. And 11's okay, but like
20s.
With 20 you can kind of like not worry about what you eat for the day, and you can kind of enjoy yourself. And then at 11, you got to go again tomorrow. And, tomorrow's not promised, especially when you have a 4-year-old.
I mean, regardless of how many miles you hit, you should still have to go tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, what I mean is, like, tomorrow I wouldn't have had time to go ride my bike again. So, like, I would have to do workouts here.
Right.
At home.
Switching the workout up.
Yeah.
Like, because regardless, we should strive to get physical activity every day. Just to keep our body, whether that's yoga, stretching. Like, people think physical activity is weightlifting. Or
how much yoga are you doing?
At least twice a week.
Really?
Yeah. It's really important for my shoulder health and my hips.
How is it helping you with your legs?
It just helps me stay stretched out, less pain. Mm-hmm. My pain typically is between a 7-8 on a regular day. When my cycle comes, we're more to 9-10. Mm. And so I deal with a lot of pain on a regular basis, and I think that without standing and regular stretching and yoga, that I would definitely be on a higher pain scale.
Yoga would be something that I think I would really do well with, but a lot of guys, have a hard time getting into yoga, but I feel like if I just gave myself at least one day a week where I did yoga, I'd be in a lot better shape, at least mentally, because I do get really tight myself, and it's like usually in my hips.
Yeah. That's where most of us are pretty tight, is in our hips. Especially, I'm sitting all the time, so that doesn't help anything. But
let me ask you a question. Have you ever considered doing jiu-jitsu?
No.
In your condition?
No.
No? I thought maybe you would like it.
No. I'm not a fan. That or boxing, really not.
Yeah, I just started some kickboxing over at this place in town. And it's a good ab workout. It really is, especially if you really get into the kicks and stuff. But I took up jiu-jitsu for a year, and I really enjoyed it. Charmaine was my coach. That's how we met. And she's really good. And if it were more accessible to me, I would do it all the time. It's just there's not a jiu-jitsu facility in Black Mountain yet. And so when one comes, I'll probably be doing it a lot.
Not something that interests me. I enjoy CrossFit a lot, and just weightlifting, getting out in nature. I really thoroughly enjoy being active.
Have you ever come across anyone who considered you a target, like in life, like in your situation? Has anyone tried to take advantage of you, or rip you off, or?
I want the best for people, and I believe the best in people, and sometimes people don't truly give their best. And there was an individual that I was emotionally attached to, still emotionally attached to, and he has had a long battle with drugs. And I thought he was clean, and he wasn't. And I brought him into my parents' house, and he took advantage of the fact I couldn't get up the stairs and stole money from my parents. And that is definitely one of the most, probably one of the lower moments for me, just because I had poor judgment. I let my emotions come in front of my judgment, and it ended up affecting my parents and affecting their trust, their security. They ended up getting an alarm system put in the house afterwards with cameras because they just didn't trust anybody. They're very cautious about who comes to the house now, and it's very sad.
Well, I would worry about you at like a truck stop too.
I've never had, so when I travel, my significant other is always right there.
Okay. So you have a significant other?
When I'm traveling.
Okay.
If anyone offers their help.
Are you talking about the dog?
No.
No, okay.
No,
okay.
I'm always like, my husband's right behind me. He'll be right here. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
My husband is always right behind me if I'm on my own traveling, and that's even at a local gas station.
That's something you say? Okay, even if it's not true?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
How do they know?
Yeah, I get it.
No, my husband will be right here.
I
wear a ring and everything. Like, I full on working on them acting skills.
I've been at gas stations down in like the city districts of Charlotte and stuff like that, and like people just walk up to you while you're pumping gas and start talking to you, and you're like, "Fuck away from me! What are you doing?" You know, that soliciting is really unwelcomed.
Right.
You know, and it's uncomfortable for people. You know.
I've drove over 350,000 miles since being paralyzed.
That's why I was bringing it up, because you are on the road a lot.
Yeah,
by yourself.
I mean, I'm about to do another cross country trip later on this year when I go out to World's Toughest Mudder in Vegas, and I don't worry about it. My mom was an over the road truck driver, so I learned some tricks from her. And
are you a gun owner?
No, not yet.
Do you want to be?
I do. I do own. I have guns, but I don't have a concealed carry permit. Yeah, I really do want to get the concealed to carry. It's just something I believe every wheelchair user should have. We are a little vulnerable.
That's what I'm going for. And like, so my buddy Roger, he was like our second guest on the show, and right after we cut, he was like, "Do you have guns, Josh?" And I was like, "Well," and he's like, "Your wife needs a gun in her car right now." And I was like, okay, because she's a doctor,
yeah.
You know, and so he's really adamant about it, and he's like telling us he can get us a good deal, and he's not saying it because he wants to sell us something. He's saying it because he genuinely thinks that everyone needs to own a weapon. Like that's his shtick, is like everyone needs to own a weapon, especially nowadays. And
I like guns, so.
Are you going to go through the process of getting your concealed carry at some point?
Eventually, yeah, I'll get it. I want to go shoot a little bit and get super comfortable. I have a friend who was in the military and who's paralyzed now, and I'm going to go shooting with him. Mm-hmm. And
get used to it, figure out what gun feels right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that way I'm good. And then I do, like, I used to hunt. I have my hunter safety. Like,
okay.
I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the whole process of hunting and how rewarding it is to get your own food and then process your own food.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I enjoy firearms. I enjoy the sport. I enjoy target shooting as well. So it's like, eventually it will come. It's in the cards.
Yeah. That's good, man. So we touched on this, but like, how do you cope with stress the most? Like, is it just physical exertion? You just work out? Is that how you cope with stress the most? Or, like you said, you write in your journal?
I don't really stress much because I just stopped having expectations. And I just know, I'm at a point now where every day I'm doing the work. I'm doing the things I need to do. And I know it's going to happen on the timeline that needs to happen. So when I let go of expectations, I kind of just stopped stressing. Now, if I don't work out regularly, if I eat like shit, if I don't get outside every day, then my mood is a lot more grim. But as far as stress goes, I just don't, letting go of expectations of this idea of who I should be, where I should be, how others should be. We all have these ideas that we carry, and those ideas limit us in so many ways that we don't realize, and they have impact on us in many different aspects of our life.
Well, speaking of ideas, did you cut the cord on the local news and stuff too? Because a lot of people just during COVID just turned the TV completely off.
I don't own a TV. Yeah.
You got the phone though.
I know.
So
I literally post. I do my necessary social media interactions, and I get off.
If you want it though, it's there. Tucker Carlson's right there waiting for you.
Yeah, I watch with my parents once a week. That's it.
Yeah.
Like that's something I do with my parents, and it's like our quality time type of thing. But I honestly just don't have time.
I hate the traveling, because when we're traveling, like flying, the news is everywhere, on every TV, everywhere you're going, and you can't get away from it. You can't, like, I'm literally in a cubicle at the airport eating a pizza, like it's Barro's or something, and they've got on either MSNBC, CNN, or Fox, and it's blaring whatever the fucking nonsense of the day is in everyone's faces. It can't get away.
I honestly don't notice it. But I also don't eat in airports. I pack my own food.
So gross.
Always.
It's not worth it.
No, I pack my own food always. One is homemade food. I meal prep, so I'm sticking to my diet.
Mm-hmm.
And airport food's expensive, overpriced, and disgusting.
Also, just waiting for you. It's like COVID's in there. My wife was like...
Not even...
No, but my wife was like, let's go sit down in there and eat. And it's like dim lighting. It's packed to the brim with people Chicago O'Hare. And I'm like, no, I'm not sitting in there. We're not sitting in there. I just don't want to. I don't, like, and I'm not even a germaphobe, really. I'm just like, I don't want to sit in that place and have someone hand me a dirty dish.
I don't even wear a mask in an airport.
You have to now.
No, you don't.
Well, you can probably get away with it better than most people. But... like when we were in there, everybody was like, you better have one on. Apparently you can get fined now if you're on an airplane and you're not wearing a mask.
That's what they say, but I board the plane every time. Now when they hand it to me, I'll put it on, because I'm not here to argue with anyone or inconvenience anyone, but as soon as I transfer back to my chair, it's right back off. It's like, it's just not pushing with a mask on, no. And then there's the PTSD of, like, I can't get a full breath, and it makes me think of when I had chest tubes and I couldn't get a full breath. And it takes me, like, right back. That's the one thing that's taken me back to my hospital days. And so I'm just like, I'm good. I'm good, guys. And if it's my time, it's my time. You know, I'm so connected with my faith that when God says it's my time, it's my time. And that's when I need to go home. But until then, I'm going to live my life for me, and I'm going to serve his purpose, and I'm going to do his work, and I'm going to help others in whatever capacity I'm able.
What do you say to people who think that mindset's bullshit? I don't think it's bullshit, but what do you say to someone who comes at you, if they probably wouldn't, but if they did, and they were like atheists or, you know, simulation theory type people who were just like, you know, that's not what's happening, you're ignorant. What do you say to someone who's challenging you on that?
I start with, you know, you have your opinion and I have mine. And when they're atheists, I go back to, you know, I was in the same boat as you. And when it's your time, and if you ever decide to open your heart to it, you'll experience what I've experienced.
Well, I
don't like to argue. I'm not an argumentative person, and everybody has their opinions, their views and beliefs. And we're really at a place in society where people don't really waver from their views, and it kind of becomes this part of their identity.
Yeah.
And that's who they define themselves as. And so I've realized that there's so many. I'm having a lot of arguments, and I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to argue. So if someone's willing to listen to my testimony and how I came to my faith, then I always share it. But if they just want to argue and tell me how I'm wrong and I'm incorrect, and that's when I'm an individual. I'm allowed to believe what I want to believe. You're an individual. You're allowed to believe what you believe, and we'll just leave it as that, because I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah, I came across a few atheists that I thought were really compelling people. And it was because they were heavy DMT users, and they were still atheists. They were heavy mushroom users, and they were still atheists even after. I'm like, man, really?
How?
Like, even after, they claim 4 or 5 heroic journeys on psilocybin, and they're still, no, yeah, I'm definitely still atheist. I'm like, okay, more power to you. But whoa, and I'm like, explain what happened. And they go through this really great story that almost everyone does when they have those transcendental moments on those substances. And then they just, they were still atheists.
Is it a pride thing?
I don't know. You'll have to ask them. I'm gonna bring one in at some point soon, and when I do, I'll share the link with you. But
because it's like, I feel this is something with a lot of different subjects, but people are so bound to their ideas and so prideful of being, they don't want to be wrong.
But see, I don't know how someone someone can go through the process of a hero's journey and then still want to be right about something.
Right. Like, I've never done a hero's journey. The most mushrooms I've had at one time was 1.5 grams, and that is even enough for me. And I've only done mushrooms enough to trip 3 times. I microdose in the wintertime, just because I like microdosing, cycling microdoses more than
a little bit of sunshine for your day.
Right, and it's you don't trip when you microdose. It's literally like taking a Xanax without the side effects. Mm-hmm. It elevates your mood enough to where when you're feeling that seasonal depression set in, it pulls you out. But I have used 1.5 grams, and all 3 times it was amazing. It was like this big hand spread my life out in front of me. And every little aspect of my life was almost like a puzzle piece, and it slid, and I could slide these pieces and move them around to make them make sense. So it was like I unlocked a new part of my life.
Phase 4 of your life was unlocked after that.
Right.
Whatever phase.
Like, if I was questioning anything of like where I should go with Wheel With Me Foundation, what I should do with my fitness, what I should do personally, what my dreams and goals are, where I see myself. It was like they were puzzle pieces, and I could move them to make them make sense together. Mm-hmm. And so then I come out of it, and I have this whole new mindset and mind frame of where I'm at. And it's really like a once-a-year thing for me. When I get to this low place where I feel mentally drained and like I'm incapable, and then it's like I hit a wall almost, and then I just use that little 1.5 grams, and I'm back out of it, and I'm good to go. And I'm at a point I haven't even had to microdose since last November, which is huge for me.
Isn't that funny how you don't need it once you kind of reach that plateau?
Right.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, and I just wish that it was a medicine that was more widely accepted, because it doesn't have so many chemicals and man-made material in it.
I'm taken back by how easily accessible it is to typically find it, in an illegal market. And Charmaine, I want you. Do you still have those pages up?
I do.
There's one page I want to pull up.
Cool.
And I want to show some stats.
Can we take a break? I have to go to the
Go. Yeah. Don't worry about it. We'll keep going.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a camera on me right now too. Hold on.
Oh.
Hey everybody.
Hello.
Okay. So let me see if they're here. Yeah, she's moved some stuff around. Hang on. Here we go. World meter. Okay, here we go. World meter. World population, 7,893,000,000. Now, we're going to get to deaths per year in a minute, but I want to come on down here. Where was that stat?
Emails sent today. Wow.
Yeah, this is awesome.
That's wild.
This is awesome. And I'll share this with the group later. But, so hold on. Where is
Obese people in the world. Wait. Whoa, overweight people in the world. Over almost 2, it's getting close to 2 billion. 1.7 billion.
I hope I'm not in that ticker.
Oh.
Hang on. Where is it?
Cigarette smoke today. Hey, it's probably in there.
What was I looking for again? I had to,
money spent on illegal drugs this year. Yeah. Holy shit.
Look at that. So right now the ticker's at 2008, 281 billion and some change, right? So So my entire life, here I am. My entire life, weed has been easy to get.
Yeah.
Pills have been easy to get. Everything's been easy to get. If you want it, just go find it. And this is how much money's being spent on illegal drugs at any given moment. Right? That's this year. Now hold on. This is this year. Okay, so this is today.
Oh, today.
This is today.
872 million.
Today, and I am not a part of that one. Thank you. Proudly I say I did not buy illegal drugs today.
Me either.
But I'm definitely in this one.
Oh, same.
Okay, and so 281 billion and climbing.
That is wild.
I know. I love this website, and also you can tell what I've been looking at online because all the cameras that their ads on, all the ads for cameras are. I've been looking for a new camera for the studio. We're going to match that one at some point soon. And so
can we talk about It's funny. Deaths caused by smoking this year. Death caused by alcohol this year.
Hold on. Once Charmaine gets back, I'll let her have the helm. But let me show you something. So this does not show any deaths by COVID, right? Where were the deaths? Here they are. Births today, deaths this year. Where were the deaths by? Where was that?
The bottom. People who died of hunger. Wait. Okay. Undernourished people in the world, people that died of hunger today.
Much smaller than the obese people.
Money spent for obesity-related diseases in the U.S. today. Today. Look at the lifetime. Like, we have a problem.
Yeah. So, money spent for obesity-related diseases this year is $155 billion, and for today it's $483 million. So you can see how where the money's going, and if we imagine if we were able to take that money, we would easily feed 24,000 people. Like there would be no hunger at all. Okay, and so and people don't put into consideration how 24,000 people is so much less than 1 billion people. Like that's such a fraction. It's not even 1%.
That's
of the 1 billion.
Spinal cord injuries are considered a rare disease because there's only 17,700 every year in the United States. Whereas, we're a cumulative number. So there's 300,000 of us estimated living in the United States right now. But because there's only so many injured each year, it's not considered something that needs attention.
So here we have deaths, children under 5, seasonal flu deaths, 347,000. And this year, today we've had 1,000 flu deaths, right? Communicable diseases is in the millions, 9 million, but that's not COVID. It's just communicable. And
why is COVID not on here?
It's a great question. That is a seriously great question. But I have another thing here with stats that I'm going to pull up. And this is about COVID. Well, no, it's not, actually. So, world death rates, 1950 to 2021. In 1950, the world death rate was 20.150. And look at our world death rate now, 7.612. So, I'll come over and sit down. So, to me, when I'm looking, hey pups,
she's using her words.
Yeah.
Use your words.
So for me, when I see this,
get down, Roxanne.
When I look for things that I should really be careful for, is the Delta variant going to kill me, or should I be more worried about the flu this year? I look at this number. And I realized that we have it way, way better than they had it in 1950. And obviously we're arcing back up. But with that arc back up, the UN projections, that's also with the inflation of people, because we're going to reach 10 billion people in 35 years. So we're at 8 billion people now, just shy. And in 35 years, we're going to literally add 1/5 more population onto the planet. Okay, and so for me, that lions not sheep jacket's making a lot more sense.
If we don't start speaking up now, that won't even be an option in
What
the
do you
future.
mean? What do you mean?
If we don't start coming together and standing up towards things being taken away, mandates being forced on us, our freedoms really being infringed upon, if we don't start making a statement now, I don't see long term that we're going to have the same freedoms.
Well, I feel like we've been making these statements over and over again. And I talked a little bit about how, so you have the Western world and then you have the Eastern world, and then there's everyone in between. But in America, there's 393 million of us, and then China has 1.9 billion, and then all the other Asian countries, which are forms of democracy in some cases, the South Korea, and then, there's a lot of people down there. But overall, encompassing, it's like 1/5 of the world is westernized, and then the rest of the world is not. And in those countries, it's a free-for-all for whatever's happening over there. So we're kind of outnumbered in a way, and it seems like the New World Order is coming, and it's happening fast, and it seems to be coming from China to Canada and down. And, all I really want to do is have a podcast that talks about film and creativity and all those things, but I constantly feel like it's getting into the framework of what I'm doing, and it becomes a part of the lecture we have, I guess, in every podcast that comes up. Now, when I go listen to all the podcasts I listen to, it comes up in all of them too, and so for me it's like, I don't want to just put my head in the sand and talk about creativity and filmmaking and then let everything go on around me, and then we end up losing those creative rights because I decided not to fight for it. But I also don't want it to run my life.
We are at a dire time now where we've been the silent majority for so long because so many of us just want to live our life. Like, I just want to live my life. I don't want to argue politics. I don't want to talk about politics. But we are at a place right now where it's crucial to make people realize we're not so alone, because when you do look at that mainstream media, a lot of the social media, there's so much division that it feels like you're almost alone in your beliefs a good part of the time.
She made a really good point in one of the first podcasts we did. And she was like, is that real though? And she can speak up for herself if she chooses to. Charmaine.
I don't remember. I don't recall. So
what you were saying was, you were like, is this online thing for real, or is it just a fabrication? And the oily wheel gets the grease type of thing,
right?
And like, people are complaining and saying all these things, but it's really just a very small group of people who are getting the most attention. Do you remember saying that?
Possibly something along those lines.
I don't want to put words in your mouth that you disagree with either. And so I'm just trying to say it the way you did. She's full of sage wisdom, by the way.
I can't remember.
But so she was making that point, and it's like, we're at this point now with social media, and I feel like we're in our infancy as to what social media is going to truly become. And many of the castles that have been built up around it, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all of the others, they're eventually going to either be, rebuilt or completely deconstructed.
Like MySpace.
Yeah, well, MySpace was really almost like a utopian version of what we wanted. And Tom, you can say Tom sold out, but he's laughing all the way to the bank today because he's not dealing with Congress. He's not sitting in front of a bunch of old morons talking about, algorithms and stuff. He's off living his best life. But it was a creative space that I reveled in because I could put my favorite song up. I could upload all my videos.
I could put my top 8 in.
Top 8. I could change my backgrounds, customize them. I could custom code my background if I wanted to. I could make everything the way I wanted it to be. And honestly, it was a lot of fun, and it had great interactivity, and it wasn't too verbose. And, there wasn't even a limit on how much you could say, but people just didn't comment on there the way they do on the Facebook. They commented on there like the way they do on Instagram, I guess.
People use social media a lot as an emotional outlet as too, and I think that they they don't realize that it's not a diary. And airing all of your personal dirty laundry
My poetry is on there. That's my diary.
I love there's a difference in that and airing out your drama.
Yeah.
And a lot of people use social media as a catalyst to air out whatever drama is going on in their life, and it's like created this fictitious safe place almost of like I could be and say and do whoever I want to be on this platform, but I don't have to be that way in real life. So you see people on social media that are nothing like they are in the real world.
Well, what do you think Tucker Carlson is like in real life?
Oh, I think he's genuine.
Okay. Sorry to bring him up again, but like
I do think he's genuine.
But what, how different are our news broadcast personalities versus the random Facebook poster?
So
like I just don't know if there's any difference nowadays.
I've been very fortunate to meet a lot of politically influential people. So Ian Smith, which is the guy from Attila's Gym in Jersey. Andy Frisella owns First Form, Sal Frisella. So meeting that particular group of individuals, right? They are exactly who they are in real life as they are on social media. And I think that there's power in that. When you meet somebody in real life and you can say, you know what, you're even better in real life. Like you're the same person, but even better in real life than you are on social media. I think that that's something that everybody should strive for. Be better in real life than you are online, and don't air out every single intimate detail of your life. There's a difference in kind of highlight reeling it.
Well, you see people who like they divorce on Facebook and then they're back together 2 days later, and you're like,
come on.
Well,
it also, too many people put value in social media, and that's all that it is. Like I could post something from 2 months ago. Like I have a workout I'm going to post from 2 months ago, and people are going to think it's from that day.
Yeah. And
they don't realize that content is often
curated.
Right.
But like the supermodels and stuff, yeah, I get really frustrated. Not the supermodels, but like when I see an Instagram account and clearly all their shots were taken like 9 months ago, and you're posting it fresh today, and you have a little thing about today on it, and I'm like, nice bathing suit, but what are we doing? I don't like that. However, I understand why, because I've literally curated content for clients that way. And I'm like, look, we're just going to build up all this content, and you'll have it for 3 months, and then we'll come back again in 3 months, and we'll do it again.
Content's hard to come by.
Not in a podcast studio.
Oh, look, I'm in this weird place where if I had my own space...
You know what you need?
If I had my own space, I would have a podcast studio, and I would have a podcast.
A Wheel With Me podcast would be really great.
You can't sit with me. A Mean Girls type thing. You can't sit with me. Like, and I would literally dive into... I have 18 episodes planned for a podcast. I just have not pulled the trigger on it.
I build studios, if you can't tell. If you'd like one made for you, show me a space. It doesn't have to be big.
I have to get a space.
I've seen you live in the basement down
Yeah,
there?
so I rent the basement.
Okay.
But I only have free range of my room specifically. Because there's a spare bedroom that we use.
How many acres does your mom and dad have out there in Iron Junction? 2?
I think 1.52, something like that.
You need to... I'm not going to tell you what you need to do, but... pull some of your daddy's heartstrings and say, Dad, I need a shed.
I know, they have 2 already.
Say, hey, Dad, can I have this shed?
I'm going to help him. All right, so I'll help my dad sell everything in the shed, and I'll steal it.
I'll come down and I'll do all your acoustics. Just tell me when. And I really think yours would be great. And you would need honestly, I'm going to stop myself in my tracks because I'm a overachiever. All you need are, 2 short mics and a little hub in the middle to record it, and you'd be fine. But it's of my personal opinion that a podcast isn't a podcast without video, because your video is going to be the model at which you really promote to social media. And how do you promote just a podcast with just audio to Instagram or to Facebook? People don't want to click on the audio. They want to see your face. They want to interact and engage. and a 3-camera setup's all you need. And maybe Charmaine hanging out in the back.
You're literally the second person to tell me this in a week.
Well, I just feel like you have the personality to host a show.
I'm working on a book.
Do all of it.
I'm definitely going to read my own book for audio version.
I have a pseudo friend named Brian Johnston, and he's way up there in the music industry, and he's earned his chops. But he said one thing that frustrated me one time, right when I was getting started. He's like, he just put this one little meme up, and he's like, I want to stop a podcast. Not start a podcast, but stop a podcast, because there's so many out there now. And like on that ticker that we just saw, that there's like how many podcasts started today and then this year, and it'd be in the millions, and you're like, I'm one of like 900 million people who think they're special enough to have a podcast. But I really love grassroots things. I got started with the NCHSA right out of college, and it was like my calling. That was my graduate program, was the North Carolina Hair Scramble Association, if you can imagine the rednecks out there.
Oh, I know. I've been there.
Yeah, and I just, I was like, I'm going to take this. I got out there, and they had 285 people at the first race I went to, County Line in Statesville. And every race has its own personality.
Yep.
And you're like, County Line, Daniels Ridge.
It's like the there's one that's always down where Camp Coker is in that area.
Is that the Ashboro race? Or?
Yeah, I think it's down towards
Twin Oaks.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful racetrack. My best work ever was done at Twin Oaks. Okay, and I just because the scene was that big open field, and then just you get they have the start, and it's like it's carnage
always,
and it's like a hard swooping right up a hill and then down, and then they go across the creek bed and then hard left up into a straight vertical climb rooted. And by the time we got to Twin Oaks, it was '08, and I had a crew, and there were like 8 of us out there, and I'm like, okay, so Carlos and I are on the starts, but I need to put intern 1 and 2 in the woods for the gnarly stuff, and I'll meet you on the back end, and we'll follow you in, because I would move bank to bank, because there's 17 starts, so I would move around for each start, so the videos would be not so boring. And so by the time we get to the back creek, I get back there, and there's like 34 bikes upside down, backwards, and there are like people under them. And it's just the most gnarly race I've ever been to. And it had rained the night before.
That always makes a race so good.
So good. But the highlight reels were just insane.
I'm sure.
I don't even know how we got on that. But yeah, so every racetrack has its own personality. And that's what I loved about, working in media. Because I always played with my action figures as a kid, right? Like what inspired me as a kid was like, I'd make my He-Man, play my Ninja Turtles, and it would be a big event. Well, like now I was 26, and I had like 1,700 action figures at a race, and they were all riding motorcycles or quads, and a few guys would show up with 3-wheelers. Like, what the fuck are you doing on a 3-wheeler? Get out of here.
Back in the 90s.
Yeah, they're like, hey man, you're illegal. He's like, what, man? I paid a lot of money for this thing. But no, 3-wheelers are illegal. You can't ride them in races anymore. But it was always really fun to see who came out, because everyone would put their best version of their ego on.
Like, and that's everything in life, though, right? Like, regardless of the circumstance and where you go, all these places have their own little personality. Like, I'm very fortunate that I've got to travel the country. So Phoenix is one of my favorite places, and my group of friends there, they have their own little vibe and personality. And then I go to Seattle, and that group of friends has their own vibe and personality. And then Nashville, and that group of friends has their own vibe and personality. And so it's really cool to see how individualized human beings can be.
It's very interesting.
I like to observe. I'm a big observer. The older I get, the more I observe and the less I speak.
Were there any moments in your observances at the races where you just kind of got over it? Were you bored out there at all? Did you find yourself kind of wanting to do something different? Because you have so many other interests.
I wouldn't say bored. My last year, I wasn't a fan of the team I was on.
Well, I heard about the beef there, right?
Yeah, and it just was no longer fun for me. They were very uptight, very judgmental.
And you're a crossover athlete with a spinal cord injury, right?
Right.
And the way that all ended, I think, if I recall correctly, was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Super lame.
Yeah, and Polaris wasn't, from my understanding, they were a little unhappy with the way that it ended, but they didn't have control because they just provided the machines rather than the actual support at the races. And so the team I was with, again, just very judgmental.
How are you as far as competing? Like, how competitive were you able to be?
I got on the podium.
You podiumed.
First female to podium in a UTV too.
Post crash.
Yeah, so I mean it was cool. I was able to get on the podium, and like I said, it was great for transitioning. But when I switched that team, I was just over it. I didn't.
Well, you got into doing Spartans at that point.
Yeah, and I was curling, and I was just doing a lot more other things. And
how much? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
How much slower pace were the Spartans compared to what you were used to? Ugh. I'm the same way.
That's why I created my own team, because again, there was More Heart Than Scars was my introduction.
Yeah.
But I needed something more competitive. Like I wanted to be out there. I wanted to do the obstacles. I wanted to move. I didn't. There was too much sitting around. Too much.
The single track out there was awesome though. You couldn't ride motorcycles there or whatever, right? I was just out there looking at that.
I know. I was like, gosh, this is so sick. I think that's what I love most about it is being in the woods, and just being. I love nature, and that's really what refills my soul. When I feel like my cup is kind of low, I get out in nature, and I try to do it at least once a week. I go to a greenway and get a push on, but I mean, I work out outside almost every day just for that reason because the sun does something to your mood. It really helps you.
Have you put two and two together as to how close you are to that Spartan race we did together?
We're what, like
1 mile?
That's it. Okay, I knew we were pretty close.
I literally rode my bike over that day. Yeah, I didn't. I drove, but I could have just
rode your bike,
spit it over, and got in. Yeah, if you go out to the road and just take a right, it's right there on the right.
Wow.
And so, and that year it was the national championships. They filmed the Hunger Games there.
Really?
And back farther into the cut of the mountain.
The Hunger Games was filmed a lot in North Carolina. District
Morganton.
Yeah, District 12 is right there in Hildebrand.
Yeah. He's coming on the show.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Oh, the guy who runs that area.
So
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, he let my sister and I can't remember his name either, but he let us do photography there for my calendar.
I've got it in my phone somewhere.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, he's gone. Do you know Rick Dorr?
Mm-mm.
All right, he went to high school with me, but he's coming on the show too eventually. He's a cook in Hickory. Really good cook, by the way. It's insane how good he is.
Did you grow up in Hickory?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went to Freddie Ford.
Okay.
And
that's how you know Cassidy and everything then, right?
He and I played ball together for 1 year, but I went to East Lincoln for a year.
See, that's where I live over in there.
I know.
Yeah.
So you would have gone to North. Did you?
I went to North.
You went to North. Okay. And so had North not been there, you might have gone because you would have been in Pumpkin Center.
Yeah, I was in Pumpkin Center. Now I live in Iron Station, so I'm I literally live 2 miles from East Lincoln.
Little guy. Hey, little guy. So you called it Pumpkin Center.
That's where I lived, yeah, when I first moved here.
You didn't call it Pumpkin Center.
No, it's Pumpkin.
No.
Pumpkin.
No, every time I would talk to someone there, they call it Pumpkin.
Pumpkin Center, you know, down here deep in the cut.
Yeah, but I remember, all the Pumpkin Center kids would they went to East. And so that was a real transition for me because I went from Freddie Ford to East, and East we had to go through every day. We had to go through a thing where they wanted us to get into the school.
That's wild.
Well, I don't think they even do that at North anymore.
No, I never experienced that.
North is still like Fort Knox, but you don't have to go through.
There's a guard to get into the parking lot.
Yeah.
And the only reason I know that there's an actual person there is that because they reported me leaving once, and I got suspended for leaving school.
I fell in love with North Lincoln in 2019. One of my dad's best friends, he's passed, right? But one of my dad's best friends, Nick Basil's the head coach there now. I don't think he was the head coach when you were there. You graduated a good while back.
Yeah.
What, 05?
2010.
2010. Okay, you're younger than I thought. But I did some highlights for North Lincoln, and just the the environment there is really positive. I don't know what
Yeah.
it was like when you were there, but that's the type of school I would hope my daughter would go to.
So the same principal that suspended me had reached out to me shortly after my spinal cord injury. His son also had a spinal cord injury, and he unfortunately had passed away since. He was a quadriplegic, so a higher injury. Had some complications from that, but it was really cool to reconnect with him on that aspect, and then also for him to see my growth as a human being from when I was in school to now, and to really be able to reflect back on that and have those conversations. Because
You are a North Lincoln alumni.
yeah,
Straight up.
I graduated. I went my last 2 years there, so I lived in the same house up until my junior year of high school. Literally, my parents bought the house. I was born 6 months later. And so I grew up in that house. My parents moved my sister and I here because we had an opportunity for racing. And so we moved about 6 months before my parents. My parents moved after us. And I finished high school at North Lincoln. My sister homeschooled because she just didn't vibe well with them. Because it is a culture shock. You know, you go from being in Northeastern Ohio to what church do you go to before they ask you your name? It was definitely a very interesting transition. One of the times I got suspended it was the first time a teacher grabbed my backpack from behind because somebody had been mocking me for my accent and the way I had said something.
I've heard it a few times.
And I told them to shut the hell up, and the teacher grabbed me by my backpack from behind. Well, where I come from in Ohio, you don't grab somebody from behind like that. So I turned around and swung on this teacher.
You thought it was you didn't think it was a teacher, though.
Right, I thought it was somebody like causing me harm, and I stopped. I realized it was this little teacher, and I'm like, oh my gosh! And the next thing I know, I was suspended.
I got suspended for mooning the principal's wife out the back of the bus on the way home from a baseball game.
No, that's funny.
Yeah, I didn't know it was the principal's wife.
But that's funny.
Yeah, it was bad. I got suspended for the whole last week of 8th grade.
Ah.
Like, I got to come back for the last 2 days. Yeah, a legend, by the way. I came back a legend.
Oh my, yeah, because you moved the principal's wife.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Oh.
Yeah, my mom didn't tell my dad for 3 months, and then I did something to piss her off, and she told him, and I got wore out.
I believe in whoopings. I think that they serve their purpose.
Post 90 days out from the incident, I got whipped.
That's great.
Yeah.
You deserved it, though.
Right before school started back for 9th grade.
That is priceless.
Yeah, where I was completely no one, by the way. So like,
yeah, because when you go into high school, it's a
you
transition.
leave 8th grade a legend, you go into high school completely no one, and so that sucked. But I got over it quick. It was funny though. Let me go to my questions. What projects are you working towards right now? I want you to talk to me about Will with Me a little bit too.
Okay. Well, I'll start with acting. Everything's like process, right? So acting's really cool. I actually just did a commercial this past weekend for a well-known bank chain. So you might see me on your TV. I'm really excited for that.
If I didn't pull the cable, I would probably.
Oh, so I mean, it's honestly, it's really cool, and in print. So it has both those aspects. We're filming the last scene for episode 2 of Date Me this weekend.
Seems like a long process to get these episodes done for
It's
you.
about 6 months for the full editing. Usually we get filming done in one weekend. We just ran out of time last time, ran out of daylight.
So just 2 episodes now. Takes 6 weeks to do 1 episode, right? It's a long time. How many episodes are they hoping to film?
Honestly, it depends on funding.
I see.
Yeah, if they get funding, then they can make it happen. If they don't, then it stops. But hopefully they get funding because I really enjoy the project. It's really cool to play somebody that I'm not in real life and to truly act. So with acting, I take my weekly classes. I'm continuing to really work on that craft. I just signed to Nomad Talent and Modeling. It's beautiful. They're nationally recognized. They book for like New York Fashion Week, London Fashion Week, things like that. So that's solely modeling, and then I'm also signed to Evolution Talent out of Charlotte and Mannequin Talent for acting. So this has all happened in the last month. I've been with Evolution almost 2 years, but the other 2 just happened. So big things are hopefully coming on that front.
Gosh, I had so many forks in the road. I could have taken you down with that statement there, but I want to go towards your talent agencies for a second. How do they help you the most? Like, because, a lot of people are like, oh, you got to get signed to an agency. And then, like, some agencies don't do jack for you. And because I have a friend in Australia, and his agencies in LA really don't help him at all.
Well, because he's in Australia too, so that doesn't help.
Yeah, but he sure does want to work in America, you know? Like, and so, like, in your case, your agencies are local to you.
So Evolution is local. Nomad is based out of LA.
Okay.
And then Mannequin's based out of New York. I just signed with Mannequin, but Evolution's gotten me the Date Me. They submitted me for this recent commercial I did. So they submit me for projects. And I mean, honestly, when it comes to acting, I've done probably over 100 auditions in the last year, but I've only landed 2 roles or 3 roles now.
That's typical.
Yeah. And so that's the way it is. But they submit me nonstop. I mean, I've had at least 1 audition a month for the last 3 months.
How hard is it?
Or 1 audition a week. I'm sorry, a week.
How hard is it to find your motivation for those auditions off the cold cut?
Oh, it's not. No, it's not. I'm living the dream, Josh.
Tell me more.
Come on. I mean, I'm doing something I never thought I was capable of doing. Mm-hmm. And now I get to do the thing I always dreamed. I always dreamed of being Selena Gomez with my own Wizards of Waverly Place. That's literally where I go. And I'm like, all right. And so I recently listened to Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the way he says, "Who's my man? We gotta get my man." Because when I got the role of Gabrielle, that's how I kind of was. I'm like, all right, who's Gabrielle? Right. And I created a whole backstory for her
very good.
As to why she was so angry. So I put myself, before we get on set, I put myself in this mindset of being this victim and life constantly kicking me in the dick. And I'm constantly being put down so I can be that.
What was the backstory you created for her, though? Tell me exactly. Give me, like, specifics.
Yeah, my parents and I were in an accident as a kid. And this isn't the backstory that was created for her, but I lost both my parents, went straight into foster care, was constantly bouncing from house to house, could never make friends. It seemed like everyone was constantly out to get me. I was bullied all the time, and all I could ever find was sports and athletics. And I have to be the best, because I've never been good at anything in my life, because people constantly just put me down and tell me how I'm not worth it. No family wanted me, so why would anyone ever want me? So I just put on this hard shell exterior to protect myself from getting hurt anymore in life.
Mm. You know, have you seen the Val Kilmer documentary?
Mm-mm.
I already mentioned this in my interview with Tammy Maddox. She just won Best Actress in the 48-Hour Film Festival in Asheville, which is a hard thing to do, by the way. The Asheville Film Challenge is just really competitive. But she was talking about building backstories. But Val Kilmer is probably my favorite actor. Of all the characters out there in the world, like there's Tom Cruise and then there's Kevin Bacon, but Val Kilmer always spoke to me more than anyone. I don't know why. But what I think is really great about Val Kilmer is he actually aged, where Kevin Bacon didn't seem to really age, and Tom Cruise is on some kind of, child's blood or something. I don't know what's going on. He's
Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah, they're keeping themselves pretty, clean, and they look like they did when they were fresh. But Val has really had a hard go, and his documentary really showed him go through that whole process of he had cancer and he lost his voice, he's trached. But going back, he was probably one of the best at what he did, because Val came through with Tom and Kevin and all those guys, and Val was always getting third man in these films or in these plays or whatever. Tom would always get, or Brad Pitt or Kevin would always get the number one role, and he had to play a supporting character. Well, what happens with the supporting character? They never have a backstory at all. They're just assholes because of the writing. Someone decided to write them in as jerks. And so Val, with Iceman in Top Gun, Val had to figure out how to make Iceman a person. And so he made up this backstory that Iceman's father never loved him, and Iceman's father never gave him approval or attention when he did something good. And that's why he was always on the edge. And that's why he was always so cold when it came to his relationships with other people, because he didn't want to owe anyone anything.
Right.
And, for him to just come out of nowhere with that, shows his true talent. I mean, because some random actor wouldn't have, who just was kind of new or green to the whole process, wouldn't have taken the time to understand he needed to build the backstory.
That's how I felt about Gabrielle, especially because it was my first true role of having a character, having someone else I had to be, and so I'm like, why is she? When you read the script, you're like, why is she so mad? So I had to have a story.
I watched the first episode, and to me, it was really hard to understand why Gabrielle was such a bee.
Which the second episode, it really dives into it, which I'm very, very excited for. But I had to create that backstory to become that person. Mm-hmm. And like I said, as soon as I'm on set, I'm in that backstory. I'm understanding my anger. I'm getting in those emotions. And I pulled it from a lot of different stories you read in support groups of why people are so victimized by what's happened to them because of other circumstances on top of the spinal cord injury. And that's really what it was. She's not so mad because of her spinal cord injury. It's the other circumstances that come with it that really caused this anger. And so it's really cool to kind of dive into this other person and really, truly be that person. She's so needy.
We're getting some love over here.
I love her.
Hey.
But acting, it's really cool. I'm excited to see where it goes, and then that brings me to fitness. Fitness has given me so much fulfillment. I feel like an athlete for the first time ever. I've been an athlete my whole life, but now I live an athlete's lifestyle. Most days I do 2 workouts a day. I eat clean. I track what I eat. I track my workouts. I'm very diligent and dedicated to my fitness and just being as healthy as possible. And it's very rewarding because now I get to help others do the same.
Did you go through a lot of change during 2020 as far as your habits?
Yeah.
What significantly did you have to adapt the most?
Honestly, it was after that dark moment. We filmed Date Me. I came off of filming Date Me, and I won a trip to First Form's new headquarters.
Where's that?
St. Louis.
Cool.
And so they flew us out. There was a group of 5 of us. Flew us all out. We got to see the headquarters. And I was talking to one of the guys there, Will, about my shoulder issues. And I'm like, man, I haven't been able to transfer myself.
Which one?
Both. I wasn't, I had no shoulder strength. I was getting cortisone shots in them.
How did that all start?
I just started having shoulder pain.
I mean, I separated mine snowboarding.
I'm a full-time wheelchair user. I'm using my arms as legs. Think about
they're like your hips then almost.
Right. Think about when I get out of my chair, when I get into bed, when I get into the car, lifting my chair into the car, getting into the shower, going to the bathroom. Anything I do, I'm using my arms.
Have you seen Erica's new ride? She's got this ride where I might be wrong about this. She didn't have to get out of her wheelchair to drive.
Oh, I used to have one of those. Yeah.
Pretty neat.
Yeah, but it's just it takes a lot of gas, and I had one. My car. It's just I love my Volkswagen. It's
nice.
Yeah, it's very.
It looks new.
It is new. I totaled my car at the beginning of this year.
The white one.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
I hit a slick spot when it was sleeting. We got that snowstorm.
So what happens to someone in your situation when you hit a slick spot on the road and you crash? How do you
I just held on for the ride.
Well, I mean, I'm not talking about the crash itself, but the aftermath,
it was great. Out. So I'm stuck against the guardrail. All the airbags deploy. I lift the airbag up when the firefighter comes, and he's like, "Can you get out?" And I said, "Well, I'm kind of paralyzed." And he's like, "Oh, he did." His eyes got so big. He said, "You're paralyzed?" I was like, "Oh yeah, my wheelchair's in the back seat. No big deal."
He's like, "Okay."
Yeah. Then he was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "I can transfer over. We'll get it out if you guys want to get my chair or whatever." And but that's how I got a new car, is because I totaled my last one. I didn't want a new car. I was very happy in my other Volkswagen.
Yeah.
But it's okay. But that takes me, so fitness. I met Will, and I'm explaining what's going on with my shoulder issues, and he's like, "It sounds like you're not eating enough." Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought about tracking?
Do you love it when someone says that to you?
Right.
I love that.
And I'm like, I never tracked my food.
I had a doctor tell me that, and I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, you need to eat more. And it was I had a doctor tell me that, and then my buddy David was like, don't get caught in that carb hole.
You eat protein, yeah. And that's what so when I started tracking, I was only eating about 30 grams of protein a day.
Well, no, but so I was eating a lot of meat but I was not eating carbs, and I got the carb flu.
Oh.
Where like
Yeah.
I would like find myself laying in a sunbeam, wishing for energy, like it was so bad. And then Dave was like, "Go get a bag of chips and eat some chips or something, man. Just eat your carbs, but then go write them off." And I was like, "Okay." And I started eating my carbs, and next thing you know, I'm back to my old self.
Well, because your muscles use carbs for energy, which a lot of people don't realize. Like, that is the purpose that they serve. They create glucose.
So many
glucose
people
for energy.
though are like, they're like, "Oh, I can't eat that muffin. Oh, I can't eat that."
Well, I can't. So, like, I'm doing keto right now because I have a couple of clients that are doing keto. I've never tried it. I can't understand why they can't meet their macronutrients. So I'm like, let me try it and understand. Now I understand. So
Keto's tough.
it is tough. You can only have 26 grams or 25 grams of carbs a day. And I went from eating 150 grams of protein a day to 100 grams, and then 60 grams of fat to 160 grams of fat. So it's been, and then you go through about 5 days in, I hit the keto flu, which was miserable. Miserable. Because I'm paralyzed. I shit myself a lot, which was a great time. I also had like flu-like symptoms as well, runny nose, no energy, headache, like nobody could believe.
I wonder what that does for, what's it called? Your, I'm drawing a blank. That, you know, keeping you from getting sick, that line, like you can get
Your immunity.
Your immune system, your immune line. If you have a thick band, you're in good shape. But if you're going keto and you get that keto flu, is that going to hurt your immune system?
There's no telling. Because I'm through it now. Now I'm in ketosis. I've tested my urine and I'm showing moderate to ketones now. So that's huge. Like, I'm finally there. I'm out of it. But I also, I mean, I use supplements to support immunity. I do use vitamin D, vitamin C as well.
You're remaining in ketosis for how long?
My goal is 3 weeks. I have a bachelorette at the end of the month, and I've attended 2 bachelorettes and was doing 75 hard both times. So
You
I
look
wasn't.
great. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I wasn't able to drink or enjoy or indulge, and this one I planned the whole thing. And I, not that I want to drink, but I got a custom cake made for her, and I want to try the cake. And I think that I've come very far that I can have a slice of damn cake. And also, I'll be a month out from World's Toughest Mudder, so I do want to transition back to using carbohydrates for energy, rather than fat for ketones. So
now, what do you do about glutens? Do you consider glutens at all when you're dieting? Do you eat gluten?
low. I'm very moderate gluten, and up until I did keto, I was dairy free. Which I will say I feel better being dairy free than I do being back on dairy. I'm not a big fan of the way that dairy makes me feel. It makes me feel tired and burnt out.
I just, I'm meeting with people for 3.5 hours at a time. I don't need to have the gas or whatever, right? And so I try to avoid it when I can. But for me, like the gluten, so like after our podcast Thursday night, I had a big bowl of pasta because my wife had made pasta. She probably made pasta tonight. I don't know. But like the big bowl of pasta, and then I went to bed, woke up with a migraine the next day. And it lasted all day.
See, my issue is I get nerve pain. Processed sugars, highly processed breads, things like that, and dairy really, really give me nerve pain. And it's right around where my initial injury line was, so right at my chest bra line. And it literally, it's like an itch you can't scratch. I have to like tap it, and it.
My wife's had that before too.
It doesn't stop. And I noticed there are foods that will trigger it, and so. It's paying attention to your body. You have to pay attention to the way things affect it.
I'm asking a broad question, but are these things in our culture going to eventually be eradicated? Like the thought, like I watch a lot of Star Trek, and they have the thing that makes the food on the ship, and I'm wondering, like, when it makes that chocolate sundae, is it lactose free? Is it dairy free when they make it? Because to me, it's like if we're going in to become our better selves, really dairy's probably not the best for us over time in the long run. It might help us if we eradicate gluten and eradicate hard dairies from our diet as a culture. But
I want to counter that, because I've noticed when there's the same argument for meat right now too. Yeah. And
fake meat. I don't know about that.
I'm definitely not a fan of it. You look at the ingredients on that and you're like, what the hell is half of this?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I believe meat does serve its purpose. We're just very disconnected with where our food comes from, which is why during COVID I started gardening, which is really all my plants died this year. I'm like, gosh, thank God there's a grocery store, because I definitely wouldn't be able to survive this year because we didn't get any crops. And it's like, it's very hard to be self-sufficient in that aspect when it comes to nourishment, which is why I enjoyed hunting. I enjoyed the whole process, from gutting the deer, skinning the deer, quartering the deer up. Like, I enjoyed the whole process of it, because then I get to enjoy the meat. And I think that as a society, we are very disconnected with where our food comes from, so then it creates stigmas around it as well. Because I guarantee that if you get milk or cheese from the farm directly rather than out of the grocery store, it's going to affect you different than, because I know damn well when I get meat from a farmer's market, it tastes a hell of a lot better than when I buy from a grocery store.
My wife can't get enough of the farmer's market salmon. I'm like, well, whatever, let's go get it. It doesn't look as good as the stuff in the store, but it's very rich. It's got like minerals and stuff in it because it's coming from wherever they harvest that from.
Salmon's really solid for omega-3s too.
I love salmon. I think actually she's making salmon tonight. Salmon, broccoli, and carrots. That's gonna be good.
There you go. That's better than pasta.
Oh, very. We've been really good about staying healthy in here, especially post-COVID. But my wife, she's a stick figure. I mean, she eats really well anyways. And so we're trying to, we have other members of the family when they come over, they're like, there's no soda in here, there's no, and it's like, yeah. Water is really good up here. It's, Smoky Mountain water.
I mean, I get it. I support it. It's really beautiful. I've been working on my parents for about a year now, since I got introduced to First Form, started tracking what I eat. It made me a lot more conscious about what I eat, and I stick to the program a lot better. And so now my parents have been watching me measure my food and prep and do all these things, and they're starting to get on board, and I'm excited because I want them to stay alive forever.
Your parents are boomers?
Yeah. What generation is that? They're both 60. They're 65. So, 56 and 57.
They're younger, but boomers. Did they come through in a time when it wasn't so conscientious of what we ate? Because my dad was 230 pounds, maybe 215. 5'9", heavy set guy, but we didn't think he was that heavy set. But he died early.
My dad was an only child, so he grew up spoiled, and his mom catered to whatever he wanted. Set?
A little bit.
Yeah, he has type 2, I call it self-inflicted diabetes. He survives on carbs, minimal protein, no vegetables in his diet. It's trash. My mom, on the other hand, grew up very poor. She was one of 5 or 6 kids. And they didn't have a lot of food. So whatever you took, you had to finish it. It was that type of thing. Whatever you get, you get. So it's two different worlds. You have the one that got whatever he wanted, catered to him. His mom made sure he liked everything got, and the other one that's like, we're lucky to eat. Yeah. So it's a very interesting dynamic, because now, if I make dinner, my mom will eat what I make.
Well, your dad was very successful in business, from what I can gather.
Yeah.
And so, he pulled her up from wherever she was when she began, and they found themselves into a nice...
They honestly didn't get together until later in life. So they were 35, 36 when I was born, when my mom was 36.
That's a good time. Well, nowadays that's average.
I think it's a great time.
Yeah.
But so it was really my mom was driving truck, my dad worked at a warehouse at the time, and that's how they met.
Oh, cool.
And then they had the business together. Diesel prices rose, business liquidated, and now they both work for the same company that my dad helped do brokerage for when we lived in Ohio. So it's really cool the way things have really worked out. But when it comes to being healthy and having a conscious mind over what you eat and macronutrients and the reasons we eat what we eat, how food affects our body, they don't think about that aspect. And honestly, they haven't until I've made it a point. And I'm like, well, this food affects me this way. And the only reason I realize is because I have a spinal cord injury. My body reacts this way.
Is there Diet Coke in the house? Is it Diet Coke or is it Coke?
No, it's diet. It's not Coke, but it's diet, whatever
Pepsi?
pop they have. They don't drink Pepsi. It's like root beer, Dr. Pepper.
They get the cheap stuff, but it's still diet?
No, it's name brand. It's like
Okay.
root beer, bars, and Dr. Pepper,
So,
things like Orange Crush.
When I was in 12th grade, my dad would not stop with the Diet Cokes. And, there was like 3 in the fridge at a time. I'm like, what are you doing? And he was really heavy at the time. And I remember he and I would just go back and forth. And I was like, I'm pouring this fucking thing out. And he's like, you better not. And then I go outside to pour it out. And I'm halfway through it. And he comes out there and just clocks me. And, takes his Diet Coke back because he's a big baby. And I was trying my best to try, curtail his diet in the right direction. But he, it wasn't until I was in college when he tried the Atkins diet. Then the guy with the Atkins diet died. And there's conspiracy around that. Everyone said he died because of a heart attack, but really I don't know if that's true. So whatever. But Dad never got it back on track. He went through ups and downs. He got down to like 205, but then he
Growing up,
go back up.
did you have a lot of sugar in your house? Were you like, so for example,
Oh yes.
Mom was over the road. So I grew up without my mom for a good part of my childhood, and my dad took care of us. And so
It was
I
readily accessible.
TV dinners, variety of pop, and it wasn't diet. It was whatever you could get.
It was always diet, but my sister and I were latchkey, and we would come home and we would make each other sugar bread.
What's sugar bread?
Sugar on bread.
Oh my gosh, where you put butter, you toast it, and then
No, you just take bread and you put sugar on it.
No, you gotta toast it, you put butter on it, and then you put sugar on it.
Well, that's halfway to cinnamon toast.
But you don't need the cinnamon, you just put the...
No, we would just take sugar and then we'd fold it up and we'd eat it and it would crunch in our mouth. And,
Oh my...
and then my buddy Jeff across the road, Jeffrey Pruitt, shout out to you if you ever watch these, but he was a diabetic, type 1, and I sent him to the hospital like 4 times.
By making him sugar bread?
By making him sugar bread or showing him where my pancake syrup was and then drinking it from the bottle. Stuff like that, and Jeff couldn't hang out with me after a while. His parents forbid it. And so...
I don't blame him. You almost killed him.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was just like there, and now we're running into different situations where we've got sugar, and it's always just a small pantry thing of it. It's not like the big bag, but it's for our coffee. We've always got butter and stuff like that, but we don't have... I guess if my daughter wanted to get into the Lazy Susan, she could get Aunt Jemima out if she wanted to and have some syrup. But I don't know. I feel like we're a bit more cognizant of it now. It's different now, though. There are other things in the house that were never in my house, and so we're trying to figure out how to navigate those things now. Because she's still young, so it's not a problem. But when they're up in age, it's going to be a problem.
Right. Yeah.
More common than ever was before. The CBD alone, just having like CBD flower out. She's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "It's medicine."
I know, because it's like, well, at the same time, I feel like I'm obviously not a parent, so it's going to be different if that ever does happen. But I'm like, I grew up around alcohol, and now I use THC, CBD.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't drink at all. And so
I would almost feel better if because I know the differences of effects. I would feel better if my child used CBD or THC over alcohol.
Well, like my wife was just making a comment. She was like, "Yeah, we should look for getting a liquor cabinet in the basement so that we can have like a little bar." And I was like, "We're not going to have a liquor cabinet in the basement. We're not going to have a bar for our teenagers to just go get whatever they want out of. What do you think's going to happen?" And she's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "What happened at your house when your parents had the liquor cabinet?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just not going to happen for me." And I don't mean to be so straight edge, but
we had a full bar as a kid in the basement, and you best believe When we moved to North Carolina, guess who had to try those bottles of alcohol to see which ones were alcohol and which ones were water?
Well, I mean, I took a bottle of wine from my grandmother one time, just straight up when I was like 14. Just took it, and it was like pink wine, and it was the sweetest thing ever, and it was amazing. And I feel really guilty for drinking it, but I know she wouldn't mind. But nothing bad happened.
No, I mean,
It was really weak.
I always took whiskey Scotch blend in a water bottle with me to school. Like, I was
See, I never was that guy.
reckless.
Yeah, that is reckless.
That was me. Definitely, as a kid.
Going to school at North Lincoln?
No, when I lived in
I
Ohio.
was say, they're real strict over there.
Yeah, I know. I got in trouble all the time there for all kinds of. But like when I was in Ohio, I mean, I was a hellion. My mom called me a terror. And that's an accurate description of who I was. A terror, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was a terrible child. I snuck out all the time. I did whatever I wanted. I had no respect or regard for authority. I was arrested a couple of times and brought back to my parents. They never took me to jail, but
She was arrested a few times too.
because I just did what I wanted.
Well, detained.
Yeah, detained. Not so much. I mean, the one time they did put the cuffs on me, my dad came and got me. So that was. But I also lied. I lied about my name, who I was, all these things to these police. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I was like 13. It's 4 a.m. I'm at a party I shouldn't even be at.
Yeah.
You know, if you know now, if you knew then what you know now, it would definitely.
So when I was growing up in Mountain View, I always looked at the kids in Hickory like they were cooler than us because they were like city kids. And I'm wondering how my daughters are going to grow up in Black Mountain with all those cool Asheville kids.
Oh, that's a good point.
Out in Cougar Town, the Cougars. And so I'm like, and that's not a far jaunt. I mean, that's
What is it, like 30 minutes?
15.
Oh, wow, that's really close.
15 and you're at Biltmore.
Wow, I didn't realize we were that close.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe 20 with traffic, but there's no traffic
No.
from our side, at least not yet. And I just remember being down. I was in my late 20s, and I was like over at Asheville High, and I'm like, God, this is a cool high school. These kids probably party a lot. The Biltmore Forest
Right.
kids, the rich kids over there. It's like, this is, if she's in the know when she's in high school, and if she's anything like me, she will be. She's going to know about that party at Biltmore Forest with those rich kids over there. And I'm like, how are we going to navigate that when this happens? When will she finally sneak out of this house made of glass? There's like 19 windows, and her bedroom will be right off the deck.
So we had an alarm system, and if you pulled down the top part of the window, the part that you use to clean it, it bypassed the alarm system. So what I would do, I lived in the second story. I would go through the top of my window, scale the roof, come down the side of the house, and sneak out. And eventually my window broke, and my mom kept telling my dad, those girls are sneaking out. Those girls are sneaking out. He said, not my girls. Because my dad was straight-laced. So my dad had the worst thing he's done is drink alcohol. He's never smoked weed, never done a drug in his life.
You think it would help him now?
I wish he would. Honestly, I wish he would smoke. I think
He doesn't drink? He doesn't drink now?
and he shouldn't drink.
Does he drink now?
No.
No.
He quit drinking when I got movement back after getting paralyzed.
These boomers, and I don't mean to dive into this again, but I'm going to, I guess, but these boomers are all like really straight edge for the most part, a lot of them outside of the alcoholism, but they all stayed away from the halogenics or the psychedelics. Or
Well, it was all demonized.
It was demonized significantly, and they're late in life now, and there's not much time left, especially for a lot of the men because they're so heavy set.
Yeah.
And it's, at least for me, it was one of the most transformative experiences of my life. I mean, and I've had like 24 at this point, but the first few were like big time. And I'm just wondering, like, if you sat down, what's your dad's name?
John.
If you sat John down one night and gave him 4.5 grams, and you said, here's a blindfold, and here's, we're going to do this like they do over at the university. We're going to do it right. We're going to give you a real session for therapy. Like, how would he turn certain things in his life around this late in the game? It's not just about his personal experience, though. The boomer in general, take him as just like an example, like a caster model of the boomer, right? And then, specifically the men in that generation, very stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
Super stubborn.
Has there been research on that?
A little bit. Have you watched the Fantastic Fungi movie with Paul Stamets?
I honestly have not watched anything. I'm like the worst person to
Did
ask
you ever
that.
watch Ferris Bueller?
No.
Oh, I still gotta watch it. Anyways, back to that though. So, talk to me about the Wheel With Me Foundation.
Wheel With Me Foundation is my nonprofit. Our sole goal is to serve the independence of wheelchair users. My personal goal with Wheel With Me Foundation is to build a transitional community to help integrate wheelchair users into independence. Mm-hmm. So essentially, it would be wheelchair users taught how to be wheelchair users by wheelchair users. Right now, every quarter, we host an empowerment week that is completely free to the wheelchair using community. And what it is each night there's a course taught to them. So we have growth mindset, nutrition. This next one, I'm trying to get somebody to do budgeting. And it's just a course that could provide them information to help them towards independence, help them gain that confidence. We're just trying to give them tools, essentially.
So, with Wheel With Me, how do you plan to move into the 2022 season? Like, what's your next step?
So we're going to continue to host the empowerment weeks, and then we're actually in the process of planning a weekend camp up in Maine with a rehab facility or an adaptive sports program outside of there.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, I'm really excited for that.
It's in Maine, you said?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's going to be good. So I just recently went to a wedding in Seattle, and one of the bridesmaids works with this adaptive sports program called Odessa up there. And so she's like, yeah, I'd love to do this partnership, and they have a facility. And
you seem to get approached often, huh?
It happens.
Whenever you're out, people
Yeah.
are like always amazed by you and like you're...
Yeah. It just depends, honestly, on the vibe I give out. Sometimes I give out that vibe of like, can you just leave me the hell alone and let me live my life? Because it's amazing how people go out of their way to either help you, stare, just... people get weird.
Mm-hmm.
The wheelchair makes people weird. And I'm like, hey, I'm a human being, y'all. I just use wheels to get around.
Well, everyone expects someone in a wheelchair to be mangled in some way, have some type of, detached limb, and you seem to be with it. You even have your figure, and you're in shape, and, it looks like you use your legs every day from, without, gawking.
Right.
So it's interesting how people are.
I mean... Two, I think it doesn't help that typically when I'm out, I'm in a sports bra and leggings or a sports bra and shorts. Like, I'm always in workout gear because usually when I'm out, it's because I'm going to or from the gym and then to the grocery store or whatever it is. And so, I think that my the way I dress probably doesn't help either. But it's really interesting to me. Like, the other day I was pumping gas and I'm back in my car. I'm taking the wheels off my chair, getting ready to lean down and grab the main piece of the frame. And this woman comes, and she's like, here, let me help you with that. And before I can say, no, I have it, she's grabbing my frame and handing it to me. And I'm like, she handed it to me in this awkward way that I had to, reposition once I got it in the car. And it took a little longer than necessary. And I'm like, it's not okay for you just to help. I didn't even have a chance to decline.
Let me ask you a question as a helper. My mom taught handicapped children my whole life. And I've always been around handicapped children, and I've always been asked to help. And so when I see someone in a wheelchair or in a decrepit state of some kind, an elderly person with a walker or whatever, I always try to lend a hand. Is there an appropriate way to approach you or someone like you? And
don't.
Well,
just don't.
If you were in that situation. And let's just say let's just say it's the weather's really bad and you're doing that.
Don't. It's still what happens is when you lend your hand, you have no idea how to take my chair apart. You have no idea about the pieces. You have no idea how my chair needs to go in the car for me to be able to get it. You have no idea how it goes together. So 9 times out of 10 when somebody helps, you cost me more time.
If someone came up to you and didn't grab anything, and
I'd be like, thank you.
And just said,
but no, thank you.
Do you mind if I help you?
I'm good, thank you.
And then that's all.
I appreciate your offer, thanks. No, thank you.
And then if you choose it, yes, but
yeah.
but as long as they keep a distance and just kind of show
He's
respect.
don't touch my shit. Like
Yeah.
and I always decline. In the beginning of my injury, yeah, I needed the help, but now I don't need the help. It just costs me more time. My time is very valuable. And honestly, if you wouldn't do it to somebody who's able-bodied, don't do it to me. Just because I use a wheelchair does not make me any less than you. And most times, I'm more able than most able-bodied people.
It'd be kind of funny to walk up to some able-bodied person and then just like take over what they're doing.
Like sometimes
Yeah.
I do that. I'll be like, "Oh, let me get the door for you." Like just because it's
Yeah.
just so ridiculous the way people go so far out of their way just because you're in a wheelchair. Like
What do you think that is?
Insecurity, their view of my life based on their opinion of
Is
it
some
and their
form
ignorance.
of weird guilt?
It's
Or
no,
like-
it's just ignorance.
Okay.
Hands down, I think it's ignorance. I grew up same as you though. Like I worked with a special needs class, and I will say there's a big difference in somebody that has a mental disability and somebody with a physical disability. Because my cognition is 100% here. I have a brain injury and I'm still 100% here.
Well, you know my work with Dominic, and you know his brain. He's a genius,
Right.
literally, and he just has no use of this. And so someone always has to help him. And the toll that I've seen that take on him over the last 37 years is just
I can't even imagine.
daunting. Because he can't do anything for himself. Even he can't feed
And I think
himself.
that is the reason why I don't want the help, because I am capable right now. I worked my ass off to become capable.
My guess is you'll be capable till the day you die.
That if I have anything to do with it, absolutely I will be. And because again, I've worked so hard to be independent. I've given everything to be independent, to be able to handle myself, to be able to go into public on my own, to be able to run my own errands, to not need help. Because there's nothing more crippling than having to rely on somebody else and waiting on their time to get something done.
I see what you mean. Let me see here. Okay. What advice might you give someone who's in your line of work? Not someone in a wheelchair. Someone in your line of work. Let's talk about the lines of work you're
Say
in.
fitness.
So
acting.
you're a coach. You do a lot of instructing. You're a public speaker. You're an actress. You're an athlete. You're a really good driver. Okay, but like encompassing like anyone who's in some of those related fields, whether they happen to be like you or not. What advice might you give someone, and maybe go with the breadth of what you know most on this, like
Preparation. Preparation, regardless of if it's speaking. I practice my speech numerous times. I mean, we sit in the car how often? So I just recently spoke at the Med County Rotary Club. And for the entire week leading up to it, I knew I had 30 minutes to speak. So I ran through my speech in my 30-minute commute. Whether it was going to Charlotte, going to the gym, I ran through my entire speech. Preparation there.
Do you cliff note your speech, or do you write the whole thing?
Cliff note, and then build off those topics.
I love a cliff noted speech because I know what I'm going to say, and so I just have like.
But when you speak on that emotion.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to get the gist into your
Right.
gut, and then you can speak from emotion.
You get the cliff notes, but then the emotion comes. Like you have that note, and then the emotion comes
do you
with that.
leave the note up?
No.
You don't?
No, I run through it. As I'm running through it, I will, but once I run through it a few times, I know exactly what I want to say, what emotions I want people to feel at what point in my talk, because that's the one thing. When you perform, whether it's acting, coaching, speaking, you are getting people to feel a certain way with the words you are saying. And you want that transfer of energy, that transfer of emotion. And so being prepared and knowing how you want to say what you want to say and what emotion you're trying to get from the opposite party from your words, I think that's key. And that comes back to preparation, practice, self-development. Personal development's a huge thing. And I know it's a space that a lot of people are in right now, but reading. I think reading is the most underrated thing that human beings don't do. It's like 80% of people don't read after high school.
Well, it's part of what I've been realizing I have to do to keep this podcast moving north. Let's call it north the right direction right now, but you know what I mean? Like, if I don't, I feel like I get caught in ruts. And sometimes the guest will lead me into a rut, especially nowadays. And I'm trying to find a way to keep myself like I said, we're on the ridge, and it's really easy to get yanked right or left off that ridge line, isn't it?
It is.
And so for me, it's like, how do I stay true to that line or that lineage that I'm trying to keep? And it's been so hard. And so I've been reading like Thomas Merton. I don't know if you know who that is. I've been reading Timothy Leary and other people like that. But I'm really trying to keep myself either lofty above the fray, or sometimes if I need self-help, I'll kind of go for that directly with a book.
I've read 14 books this year.
How many of them were self-help, and how many of them were for recreational purposes?
All of it was some type of self-help.
You don't like have any desire to read anything about like, I don't know what you would be into, but fantasy or science fiction?
I'm into the thick of becoming the best version of me, and I'm committed to it. I'm very committed to it, and I have no desire for television, movies, entertainment. Like, there was a point where I was listening to podcasts about murder mysteries, and I can't get engaged the way I used to.
Well, I have that same issue with the new Star Treks. I watched every episode of Voyager, every episode of Next Gen.
Is that all Star Trek?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
I've never seen Star Wars, Star Trek.
Well, in the end, it's all the same. No offense to anyone else there, but yeah. So I used, back in the day, I would watch, the full Enterprise series. And this is like 58, 85 episodes per.
Oh my god.
Yes. And so it's a lot. But now, I don't know if it's that they're no longer like canon or whatever. But I'm not that big of a nerd. But I just don't care. And they're really well made now. They're like well made. And I'm just like, all right, well, that's over. And I'm glad it's over when it is. And so for me to watch a full series of like Star Trek Discovery or something, it takes me months because I watch one a week, maybe, which is how we used to do it. Remember? Like when the Wonder Years would come on, we'd watch one episode a week.
When the episode comes on, yeah.
Yeah, wasn't that a wonderful time?
Where you didn't have everything on demand.
I remember The Simpsons were on, and it was like Desert Storm, and they canceled The Simpsons, and I was destroyed. This was like 1990 something.
It honestly, as far as technology has come, at the same time it limits us in so much, because now
it's overwhelming us.
Right, our emotional bandwidth isn't what it used to be. What is the word I'm looking for? Not conscious, but when you focus on one thing, we're unable to focus, essentially.
Well, imagine trying to start a podcast when there's 9,100 million podcasts, and you're like, well, I just need 100,000 followers, and there's...
And the followers don't matter. I mean, shit, I have almost 50,000 followers on Instagram.
Do they help you with sponsors at all?
No.
What do the sponsors want if they don't want followers anymore?
They want sales. It comes back to sales. So, like, Kenda, I have a discount code. I get X amount of sales.
When you sell tires.
Right.
And do you sell tires for them? I'm sure you do.
I mean, my friends all ask me for the code. It's 30% off wheelchair tires. That's a huge deal.
Big deal.
And it's something we all need. I love their Paradigm. I think it's the best wheelchair tire I've ever used.
You get multiple colors, different colors in a range?
Not anymore. I'm really happy with the Paradigm. It's their newest release. Okay. It's a thicker ply.
Got it.
It does last a lot longer, which is what I love most about it.
How long does a tire last typically?
I change my tires every 6 months.
Okay.
But I could really change them probably at 3.
Okay.
It's a pain in the ass to go to the
bike shop. When do they go bald though?
Probably a year.
Okay.
I could probably make them last over a year.
You don't think about that when you're not in a chair. You don't think that your tires are going to have to be replaced.
And insurance doesn't cover it.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of people don't realize.
Well, it's aesthetic.
Right.
Right. People look at them, right? Yeah, I remember you had colorful ones for a while.
I do have pink ones. Kenda makes colorful ones, but I just
do they wear out faster?
They get dirty and they look gross. But I'm a huge fan of their newest tire because the roll is nicer. It's a really smooth ride, and I push a lot, so it's like I want something like that.
Got it. So, in regards to, the condition you find yourself in now, what advice might you have for someone who's new to it?
Oh, the same thing I tell everyone. Stop worrying about walking again. Stop focusing on what you lost. Focus on what's available to you and just finding what makes you happy and being the healthiest version of you possible. Health and happiness. That is all you need to focus on when you're first injured, and figure out your independence. Like, whatever is going to help you be able to live the most independent life possible. Do things. Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid. You're going to fall. It happens. We always fall, but you can always get back up. And at first you'll need help, but eventually you'll get back up on your own. And that will be the most rewarding day of your life. So continue just to fight. You've just got to continue to fight and focus on being healthy and happy.
At one point, you made a very powerful statement to me. You said that you will walk again one day. And you still believe that. I wouldn't think you would change your mind now.
Yeah, and I mean, I might not walk like normal, but I'll be able to walk a short distance. I'll be able to stand and pull my pants up. And I'm well on my way. I mean, this year alone, I've regained more sensation in my lower extremities than I have in the last 6. So it's a big. Our mind is a very powerful tool.
What do you attest the sensations coming back to? Was it your physical exertion? You're working out?
I think it's a combination of my nutrition, my physical exercises, my mental exercises, and giving my life and my purpose to others and doing work that's for a higher power than myself. I truly believe that everything I do, there's a purpose behind it, a bigger purpose, and it serves as a small piece to the larger puzzle of life. And as I do each thing, it comes, and it's going to happen when it's supposed to happen. And really, I'm telling you, the biggest thing to let go of stress is just realize that things, as long as you continue to show up every day and you continue to put in the work, things will happen on the timeline they are supposed to happen. It may not be your timeline, but it will be the timeline. But again, people think that they can not put in work and then it's going to try and live that way, and that's not the way it works. You
Changes
still have
the timeline.
Right. You have to put the effort in every day to be the best version of yourself, physically, mentally, for others, for yourself, for your God, your faith, whatever it is. Be the best version of you every single day and put that effort in to continue to grow and develop, and it's going to accumulate and it will happen.
Now, have doctors approached you in the recent years with procedures that might help you walk faster? Mm-mm. Nothing like that? You haven't had anyone say, hey, we have this thing? I
mean, there's support groups, and people always talk about Elon Musk's whole Neuralink.
Well, that's far out.
Right. Honestly, I wouldn't do it.
Are there people, it's kind of like the other stuff we're dealing with right now. I'm super skeptical of Neuralink.
No, I wouldn't. Even if there was, say someone said stem cells and these stem cells work, there's like a, it's not my time. And I know my body is capable of a lot more than my mind is capable of grasping.
What if, and I'm just going out on a limb, forgive me, but what if stem cells are to us that psilocybin are to the boomers, and our fears of stem cells, which are valid, right?
I'm not even fearful of it.
It's not fear, but it's like, I don't know enough about it. I'm just not going to do it. But then, if we, what if you came to your 59th birthday and someone put stem cells in your lower back, and then all of a sudden you just stood right up after 3 months of therapy? It's just crazy to think, because I've heard so much about stem cells helping just completely regenerate knees, regenerate ankles. The technology's come a long way, but you can't even really get good services here in the States as much as you can in other countries. And so I don't know what the science is on that.
The thing is, the human body is capable of so much more than science has even tapped into. Mm-hmm. And I believe in the power of the human body. I believe in the capabilities of the human body.
Is it mind over matter type of stuff?
And not so much mind over matter, but it's because you can't just function solely on mind over matter. Yeah. But it also matters, you have these people, for example, me, first year of being injured, all I did was focus on walking. I went to therapy 3 times a week. I was constantly I have to walk, have to walk, have to walk.
Were you in pain too because of that?
Not, it was more emotional pain.
Well, that's what I mean, like the frustration of it.
Right, the frustration of getting your hopes up and nothing ever happening. But also, at the same time, my mental diet was trash. My physical diet was trash. I had no other activity outside of that therapy. So, how much of a chance did I really give myself? Because I wasn't truly putting 100% effort in to making this goal become a reality. And so can we really say that the body's not capable of doing it when people are only focusing on that one physical thing of doing physical therapy, but they're not addressing the other aspects of your mind, healing your mind? You have to heal your mind from a trauma like this. Mm-hmm. It is,
how far have you come? Do you think you're there all the way? You still have more to heal?
There's always room for improvement. There definitely is room for improvement. I think I'm in a weird place now where I need to relearn how to have empathy. I really struggle to have empathy for other struggles.
Considering you know.
It's considering all of I've overcome and that I just continue to show up regardless of what happens.
So like if I'm complaining about my plantar fasciitis, you're like, fuck you.
I'm like, stop being a baby, get the hell over and just keep grinding. Like, because even when I don't want to, I'm at a place where now I still make the choice and do it.
When my wife was in labor, I was complaining because my feet hurt. And she turned to me with like her legs spread, and she's like in there, and she's like, fuck you, man. And I was like, okay, I shouldn't have worn my church shoes. I should have worn my tennis shoes. My bad, I shouldn't have said a thing.
Yeah.
You know?
She's like pushing your child out of her vagina, and you're like, my feet. Yeah, see, that's where I have no empathy.
Yeah, she was not having it, man. And I felt bad for even saying anything. But when you're in your own head, you're going through your own thing next to a pregnant woman in labor, and you're not thinking clearly. Next time I'm gonna go in there wearing like my Lions Not Sheep like windbreaker, a pair of tennis shoes and some shorts. I'm just gonna be super comfy, and I'm not gonna worry about what I'm wearing. But my first daughter was coming, I was like, I'm gonna dress
nice.
up.
Oh my god! For her arrival, like she's gonna remember what you were wearing.
But yeah, I was like wearing a nice sweater, and I had on my slacks and my shoes, and I was trying to be respectful of the moment, and it just no one cared, So yeah, it's
because a new life is coming into the world. We focus so much on our exterior that we forget about the interior.
Yeah.
And that's with anything in life, really. And the spinal cord injury really taught me that, because I went from being a completely able-bodied 22-year-old female to being sitting all the time. Now, when you sit, you constantly have a belly, and I look down, and that's all I see, even though the mirror may not reflect that. I look down more than I look straight ahead at my reflection. And so there's this point where you have to address mentally what has happened to you, and you have to let go of that. That's why letting go of judgment is so important, because you're so concerned about what everyone else sees. You're so concerned about hiding your catheter supplies, and don't let people see your pull up, and you don't want people to know that you pee yourself. And it's like, if you can't control it, don't let it control you. Stop letting it control your emotions, and stop letting what other people think about you control that. They're not living with your day-to-day. They don't know your daily struggle.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to learn that, that's on them. If they want to stay ignorant to it, that's on them. But you cannot allow someone else's ignorance of your situation to determine the way that you live your life.
The lack of empathy, I have lack of empathy sometimes too, but like mine comes from like an angst-driven anger, like a frustration I've had with others, and it's similar to your situation, but nowhere near it. But I'm trying to come to a question or a conclusion, and I can't. But it's just, how do we bridge that gap? I guess you kind of just explained it, but it's just, a lot of us are living in that, whether we're in a wheelchair or not. People, have you ever come across someone from high school 7 years past, and they still cut their eyes at you the way they did the day you left, like a long time?
I haven't had that opportunity.
It's been a long time for me too, since that's happened. But you run across someone from your past, and it's like it's the same day or the day after, but it's been a decade.
I've noticed that. So with friends that I hung out with in my early 20s compared to now, and when I get around them, it's kind of like they're frozen in that time, still doing the same things, like same attitude, acting the same way, and it's like it's amazing to see they just haven't had growth.
Well, you can have a lack of empathy for specific people, not so much a broad swath of people,
Right.
based on your history, and like something horrible could have happened, socially between you, a girl, and another guy, or vice versa, and so like at what point are we like, hey man, bygones are bygones? And we run into these problems with people sometimes, especially at work. I have problems with people at work, and there are people who have blocked me on Facebook and even on LinkedIn because of they don't like something I said to them, working at a resort in 2012.
So, when it comes to situations like that, honestly, the way people treat you, and if you said something that upset them years ago and they still aren't over it, that's a reflection of them.
Yeah.
That's a reflection of something within themselves that they're unable to forgive or heal or whatever, this whole idea they have within themselves, and you cannot put your emotions in the hands of someone else's feelings of you, because at the end of the day, where's our ticker? There's over 7 billion people in this world, almost 8 billion people. Have you liked every single person that you've met?
No, I think 1 in 10 are, deplorable.
So,
but I respect them.
How-
I let them be.
how can you expect everyone to accept you like you for who you are?
Yeah.
It's just not realistic. Because the beautiful thing about being a human being is being an individual, having your own set of ideas, values, morals, standards. And that's
exactly how I got to a rub with them in the first place.
Right. And so that's the thing. You're both different human beings. So just because they left that interaction with a certain feeling about you and they don't want to interact with you anymore, that's not a reflection of you. That's just a reflection of them and what they can handle as an individual.
I have this weird thing where I call out hypocrisy.
Yeah, I feel that.
And I don't mean to be so Aspergian when I do it, but I'm like, that's bullshit! And I'll call it right there, and it'll be an assistant manager at the time, and I'm just a worker. And immediately, like long story short, he's running out into the woods and smoking weed with another employee, and then he's acting like he's not doing anything wrong and he's a manager, and then, well, he set a standard, okay? I ride off with the same employee a week later. Guess what I'm doing?
Same thing.
Same thing. And then he's got a problem with me running out into the woods with the guy, and I'm like, you just did that last week.
It's the hypocrisy.
It's like, just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. This is stupid.
And again, that's a reflection of him.
Yeah, and then I got called unprofessional. Right.
The pot calling the kettle black, and it's a reflection.
No pun intended.
But it's a reflection of him.
Yeah.
It's not a reflection of you. And when we stop making things so personal, it's not about us in that situation. The way someone else treats you, someone else's actions, that has nothing to do with you.
It's true.
That's something internal within them. And we as a society have to stop thinking that people are out to get us or that people's actions directly correlate to us and our lives and who we are and the way that we interact with them. It has nothing to do with us 9 times out of 10.
I have a really hard time when people dismiss me. I've gotten better. But
I'm right there with you.
Some people from that I was like long time friends with them. Maybe I was never their friend, but I thought we were like best friends growing up, and they just dismissed me, and then completely, when they remove themselves from your social media immediately. Maybe it's my computer, but like just completely cut you off so that you can't even communicate with them, and they live somewhere long far away, and you can't even ask them why.
Okay.
How do people cope with that?
You let go. You have to let go of it, and here's why. Think your wife and you have been together for a long time, right?
Since 2002.
Okay.
3-ish.
So you have not dated in the age of ghosting.
I've ghosted people, but I've never ghosted
right,
a person for a relationship.
Think about how that person felt on the other end. They want to know why the hell they're not good enough. Why did you ghost them? Why the hell did you drop off the face of the planet?
I wrote them a long, hefty email telling them why I was ghosting them and then ghosted them.
Okay.
It's fine.
Well, here's the thing. Most of the time, people will just ghost you. Like, I had this one guy literally just blocked me. And then a year later pop back up, and he's like, hey, how are you? And I said, no. Literally my reply, and he's like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, you ghosted me? No, goodbye. Yeah. And you have to realize that, again, it's not about you. It has nothing to do with you 9 times out of 10. It's a lot of times when these people are ghosting, it's something they have going on personally in their life, and just they're emotionally overwhelmed.
I feel like what happens when that happens is I show up and I'm like, hey, and then like somehow I flash a mirror of themselves back at them without even trying, and they're like, ah, and then they're like, block.
Goodbye. Yeah. Right, because again, it's a reflection of them, nothing to do with you. They may have seen something in the conversation within themselves that they're like, ooh, that makes me uncomfortable. And what do most people do when they're uncomfortable? Run back to their comfort zone. Get out of that situation.
Go in their turtle shell.
Distance themselves. Exactly. What's the best way in this day and age to distance yourself from someone? Block them from everything. Phone number, social media, all of the things, so they can have no contact.
Now, you say you have a hard time finding empathy for others, but would you consider yourself an empath in a way? Can you feel other people's emotions when they're in the room with you? Do you sense them through body language? A lot of empaths call themselves empaths like it's some type of thing, like they're like stardust, but really they just have really good body language reading skills.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so if I'm over here going,
I'm like, it's time for us to go.
Yeah, you know, and I don't.
All right.
Yeah, but that doesn't really make you an empath. It just makes you intuitive.
Right.
And so,
my empathy could definitely use work, right? But like, I'm a huge energy person. I pick up on the energy that people put out. So if someone's putting out positive vibes, I gravitate towards that.
I hope I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But at the same time, if someone's putting out bad vibes only, typically what I would do is I try to kill them with kindness, get them on the positive vibe train, and if it's just not working, then I distance myself.
Sometimes you just realize they're hungry.
Right, that's me. Typically, if I'm a bitch, I'm hungry.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. No, that's accurate.
Yeah. It's like, God, he's an asshole. And then you see him get to the cocktail buffet, and you're like, oh.
Oh, now it all makes sense.
And he's in a good mood. Yeah, that's so funny. In here, like, especially with people in your situation, where, like, I could ask the wrong question, and it would be really insensitive. It's really
what.
Like
it
just
comes back to ignorance, though. Like you don't. And ignorance doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just you don't know what you don't know, and you could just not realize that. Oh wow! Until after it comes out, you think a thought, and then it comes out, and you're like, ooh.
This one time, I was watching some stupid show. It was just a clickbait thing on Instagram, I guess. But like Jonah Hill was sitting there with a bank of reporters asking him questions. And someone was like, hey, so like when you go to parties, are you still the fat guy in the room? And he's like, can someone ask a better question? Because, it's a stupid question to ask him. He's like, do you still feel fat when you go to parties? And he's like, I'm not answering that question. I'm not giving my time to that question. Like, I would hate to be that reporter, I'd hate to be that guy who's like, asking the stupidest fucking question in the room, and like the celeb in the room just completely like writes you off. Like it would be the worst.
I think that's where my mindset really comes in, because like Ed said, I realize that when other people say something or their actions do something that don't jive with me, 9 times out of 10 it's their ignorance, or it's just you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. Like if in their moment that probably seems like a good thing to say, the right thing to say, the right thing to do, even if it just doesn't fit in that context.
I think the context of that was that reporter was heavyset, and he was asking Jonah, who had just lost a lot of weight, if he still felt fat, even though he wasn't. And I don't know if that's. It probably is. It's probably an insensitive question, but it was probably more of a personal question. Maybe he could have asked him hanging out.
Right.
But I think it was more for him than it was for the audience, I think.
Like, there's moments where I forget I'm disabled. Hands down. Like, because I don't see the disability.
Well, I forget I'm not a child.
That too. Oh, that's a good one.
I
always am like, oh shit, I'm almost 30. I'm not 20 anymore.
Wait till you're 40 and you think you're 7 or 12 or 18, you know? And I just, there's that, there was that, it's not a skit, it was at the beginning of a music video, and there's an old man sitting on the corner, and these really pretty young girls go by, and he's like, makes an old man wish for younger days. Just thinking about that, it's like when you're 78 or 9, like, you probably still sometimes inside think you're, at that point 39 or maybe 29, but like, you want to be young, but you're not, and you have to accept the fact that you're not what that is. You've probably had to deal with that way more than most people do at an early age.
It happens.
It's not really. I don't know how to pose a question there. I'm just making an observation.
No, it's very true. Yeah, it happens from time to time. I do forget. I feel like I was robbed of my mid-20s because it was such a transitional period for me.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm still 22, 23. And that's kind of the hard thing. Because I'm like, oh, Jess, you're more mature than that. Like,
I moved to Utah for 3.5, 4 years. And there's a real large single culture out there, but they're all divorcees. And what I thought was really weird was like, I'm rolling into my 30s at that point. I was probably about your age when we got there, but 32 when we left. And everyone was single, but they were all like 8 or 9 years older than me and really immature. And they were like going out and doing all their drinking, and they were smoking weed for the first time. And they, because I was like young and kind of still in that, they were like in the social circle with the 20-somethings who weren't in that situation. So I guess in the late 80s, 90s, these people were young and they got married at like 19 and they were Mormon.
That was the way then.
But they had kids and then they got divorced a decade or two later. And then they were sowing their wild oats as a midlife crisis rather than do it the way we did it and just
get it out of your system.
Move to Utah in our 20s, get it out of our system when we could, and then move home and start a family and do it. I don't know if you could say it's the right way, but it's the way we did it. But they all had kids, and their kids were all like either on a mission or addicted to pills or something, and they were on to their single life or even their second marriage. It's so weird.
Such an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, it was very strange. They were all very attractive people, too. A very health-conscious group out there. Everyone was in very good shape, kept themselves together, a very clean-cut group of people. But I always thought that was such a fascinating thing to see. It was like, all those people having to figure themselves out again, but later. It's like they never even thought about it. Because I guess if you have kids when you're 19, it's not about you anymore.
No, I feel like as soon as you have a child, everything about you goes out the window.
Not everything.
But a good part of it.
But when you're young, I had Ruth Pittard on here, the love lady. She's so amazing. And she had her first kid before she was even a grown adult. She was, I guess, 18, maybe 19 when she had her first kid. And when she was 39, her kids were grown and out of the house.
Oh.
I'm sitting here talking to her, and I'm 39, and I have a 4-year-old. And so that was a real interesting conversation because, she's 70-something now, but, like her freedoms didn't really come until way later. And she went straight to being a parent. And it's just incredible to see because that used to be the way. That used to be how people were.
It's just...
My parents had me when they were 30, and they were, like, considered way after due, post-due.
I'm grateful that my parents are older, especially my mom, because I have learned so much from my mom's life experience. Mm-hmm. And I see so much of my personality from her. And
I'd like to meet your mom. I'd like to meet your dad, too, actually.
My mom's a rad woman.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
She's a little badass. I love her.
I don't know. I had something else to say, but I forgot. It's okay.
Did we get through all of your questions?
Almost.
Like, what else you got on that list?
I don't want to. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse. If you could go back in time and talk to yourself at 16, or even that day before the crash, whatever, choose a day. And what would you say at this point?
There's nothing you could have told me.
Yeah.
Um,
Was there a point in your adolescence when you could have like jerked you up? Was there a butt whooping that from hell that could have happened that would have stopped you in your tracks? Or were you impervious to the belt? Were you impervious to the paddle or the hand or whatever? Could they whop you 100 times and you'd still go about your business?
I think if my mom would have been around when I was a kid.
Where was she?
Over the road truck driver.
Oh.
She'd be gone all week.
Aha! So the rebellion started there.
Yeah, I think that Candace, at one point that I really agree with Candace Owens, is her whole entire platform of dual parent homes.
The nuclear family being
right.
Sustainable.
That I think that does correlate to how the child develops and grows. And that's just from personal experience that I feel.
So you're saying if one of the parents is out of the house,
right, with one of their absence,
it leaves a blind side, doesn't it?
It leaves an opening and a lack of guidance. Like, for example, I start my period, I'm using pads, I'm in middle school, and I'm like, I want to switch to tampons. I asked my dad, and he's like, oh, you have to call your mom. That's not a question for me. Call your mom.
It's not a question.
Right, and I literally had to call my mom on the phone to ask her because she wasn't physically there.
All I could do is go to the store and show you where they were.
That's what my dad did.
Because I buy them for my wife all the time. I'm no longer embarrassed of that. You know, I've done it for 2 decades. I'm good with it. Whatever. No one cares. But, so what's your take on, and you don't have kids, so I like your insight might be funny here, but like, so the I don't know if it's dichotomy, but like it's shifting. So 2 things are happening. One, we're not having kids until we're almost or in our 40s now. For real. My child's daycare, the majority of the parents are either in their late 30s or literally in their mid-40s, and they're having their first kid. Maybe they're only, sometimes they have 2, but it's very, very rare to see a 20-something in the mix with their toddler or 4-year-old or whatever. But what's even more interesting is that all the moms are at work, and all the dads are either stay-at-home dads or they work from home.
I love that.
You love that?
I love that boss woman type of energy.
But when your mom was gone all the time, she worked all the time.
Right.
And your dad held it down.
But are these moms coming home every night? My mom wasn't home. My mom was home all week. Like, literally, she would leave Sunday night, and I wouldn't see her till Friday night.
Well, this mom is coming home every night. But she's working 12, 13-hour shifts. It's insane.
Is she with the baby right now?
Yeah, she's up there. Yeah.
She's with her right now?
Mm-hmm. And she's actually starting a new job, and the hours are going to be a bit easier. And
Think
she'll
about
be home every night instead of just, late nights.
Most children spend their time in school, right? Mm-hmm. But I just think back, I'm like, what if when I got home from school every day, my mom and dad were there, we had family dinner, we talked about what I learned in school, how school was, and actually got into depth with it, right? Like, I would love, if I had children, I would love to have time set aside at night, no phones, no outside distraction, no television. We have family dinner and we share our day in depth.
How do you get through to your kid when they don't want to talk about their day?
That's something that's imprinted from, I feel like it's not something that can be added later on, say when they're in adolescence, but like if it's something you do early on every night, they don't know any different until they go to a friend's house and then it's not there.
What's funny is my daughter is just 4. We get in the car after school and I'm like, how's your day? And she's like, don't talk to me about my day. And she's like, I'm hungry, I'm tired. And she's like grouchy and doing what 4-year-olds do, and she doesn't want to talk about her day. And so, like, what I've started to do is I don't even ask. She gets in the car, I strap her in, I might say a joke, or tickle her, but then I just turn around and I drive. And I'm finding that there's a mile marker or a marker on the road. And right when we get past that marker point, it's like she's like, okay. And she'll start saying something about so-and-so at school. Or
just needs a minute to decompress.
Yeah. And, don't all women, right? And so,
Guilty.
so it's like, don't get in her face right away. But I've started giving her that boundary, and it's really helped her to kind of open up. Because, before, we just didn't understand. Because she's just a baby, we think. But really, inside that toddler head, they are there.
Everything.
Even though she won't remember this year, next year, and it'll all be photographs, and then she'll see those, and she'll go, I don't remember that.
It's still part of her development.
But she acts just like a 12 or 13-year-old does now. She's just in this midget body. Sorry for saying midget. In this tiny person's body. And she's just kind of like becoming... of age, I guess. I don't know. But it's interesting because she acts just like we all act. So
I think that's something that's lost. People think that there's this misconception the child has to do right all the time, has to do all these things all the time, when your child's a human being. Do you do right all the time? Are you approachable all the time? Are you emotionally stable all the time? Absolutely not.
Like, when have you overscheduled yourself, and how have you learned to not be so overscheduled? Because we're overscheduling the kid, and it's obvious.
Still learning.
So you're getting a lot of people I think you go through waves of attention, because people will come to you. It's seasonal, it seems, right? It's like all of a sudden everybody wants a piece of Jesi, right? And then you're like, I gotta figure out which venue to take on, or which.
It's always the same time too. Like typically from the middle of July to the end of November, every year is just like boom, 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 and then the middle of January to the middle of January to the middle of May, same thing. So typically I have
the whole year.
December and June are my 2 months where things are pretty chill, but then my birthday starts coming around, and then we get 4th of July comes around, and literally the week after the 4th it's like boom. So I have 2 months typically where I'm not back to back to back. Like August, I traveled 17 out of 30 days.
It's a lot. Were you overwhelmed?
Somewhat.
Well, we talk about keeping that band really strong for our immune health, And when you're traveling that much, it's easy to weaken yourself because you might not be sleeping as well.
Nope, I prioritize sleep. I worked out twice a day. I stuck to my diet, ate whole foods, ate clean, but I prioritized all of that. And it comes down to priorities. That's another reason why I'm not in a relationship. That's another reason I don't have kids, is because I'm not willing to change my priorities to fit that into my lifestyle.
We just went to Kansas for 1 week, and I swear I unraveled all the good work I did. And it was just like the airport, and then we get there, and they're not cooking for the adults. They're cooking for the 4 children in the house. And so it's like beanie weenies and grilled cheeses and, just kid food. And nothing else was going on except for, unhealthy choices, it seemed. And then, that's for 5 days, and then we have to fly back, and there's only one chance to eat healthy, but really it's like McDonald's. I'm not going to eat their salad. And then we get home, and I'm up 5.5 pounds. That's all water weight, but whatever. But you don't feel good when you see that on the scale, do you? And so you're trying to figure out how to get back down, and I still haven't recovered, and it's been 2 months. I'm still chasing my tail.
It's finding a routine and being able to get back into it. So the end of July hit, I was in Phoenix for 10 days. Flew home, 2 days later drove to Florida for acting, was there 4 days, got home, 4 days later drove to Jersey, then 3 days later drove to Richmond, and then 3 days later took a flight to...
You sound like a stand-up comedian or something.
Right. It's literally, it was just an insane travel schedule, and I drove some places, flew others, but I still, within my drive, I made times to stop off at a Greenway, get a 45-minute workout in. I did my first workout before I would leave, and then the second one I'd stop and get my second one in. So, I stuck to the program the entire time, and it seriously, this last week I've only done one workout a day the entire week, and it comes down to priorities. I didn't prioritize my workouts. Like, if I should be doing it first thing in the morning, and then I have time for that second one.
With all the traveling you do you ever find yourself with wanderlust? Do you have places on your, like, you just like, I want to go so bad, I want to leave and go here, or I really want to, do you ever get like a bug up your butt about leaving and going to God knows where?
I really want to get a Sprinter van and turn it into a camper so Roxanne and I could just hit the road. That is ideal.
I have my own Sprinter van fantasy, and it would be an editing bay / live production suite, and we would go do races.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And we would have, 16 camera operation out of it. Up to 16. Probably only need 8. But, right.
That'd
and so,
cool.
that's... But then also you can sleep in it. Take it to Yosemite. Take the family. And I would use projectors as my monitors instead of using...
monitors,
panels like
right.
that wouldn't go in there. I would have little cube projectors hitting white walls, so it would be really modern and really light. I hate walking into a Sprinter van and seeing TVs up there. It's awful. Have you seen that?
No.
It's the worst. It's the worst. Why would you have like 3 TVs in a Sprinter van? It's such a small space anyways.
Yeah, no. I need a shower, a bathroom, a bed, and a kitchen, and I'm set. And even now, I have a little crate tub thing, and it has all my camping equipment in it. So I have a single-person tent, a single-person air mattress, a camp stove, all of the equipment I need to be... Because I've camped all over the country.
We may get to our Sprinter vans around the same time. We should, form a posse and, get up, meet in Santa Fe or something.
I dig it. I just want to explore the country. The more I've gotten to explore America, the more I want to do it with my dog. I want to get into nature more. I really want to do a lot of loner things. I'm really happy in my own company.
Have you been to Utah, Nevada?
I have not been to Utah. I've been to Nevada. I've been to the Grand Canyon.
Did you go to the Salt Flats?
No.
I proposed to my wife there.
Really?
I crashed the rental right before I proposed. So it was supposed to be an SUV, but it was like a van. It was low profile to the ground. And there was this dip, and then it went back on the road. And I was like, let's go on over, and we'll just do what we do over there. And we go down into the dip, and I was like, you ready? And she's like, no. And I was like, let's go. And it bottomed out, and it destroyed it. I mean, it was bad. And my wife was freaking out because she didn't buy the insurance. And I was like, oh, now or never. And I dropped a knee. And she said yes, but it was a late, delayed yes. She said it after a minute.
Ah!
I had to say something and it accidentally rhymed. And she thought it was cute, I guess. But I got her to say yes, but it was an embarrassing moment for me. But yeah, Bonneville's beautiful.
I'm gonna have to go. My friend the bachelorette I went to at the end of July in Phoenix, she drove from Seattle down, and so she checked it out and did the same thing, went through a dip. She has a 4Runner, and it still hit the bumper.
It's probably the same one I hit.
That's what I was thinking. That's exactly where my mind went.
There's only one out road, so you come out and you're in Windham, Nevada, middle of nowhere, Windham. And you take a right, and you take a right, and then there's this road, and it goes bucket, and then it's just it's made of dirt, and it's just up higher than the salt. And what you don't realize is on TV you see them racing on the salt flats, and it's hard pack, but for if you go in the spring, it's underwater. It's water because of the mountain water melting.
Yeah.
And you don't realize it. It's really pretty, by the way, because the sky's reflecting perfectly, and it's still. But you think, oh, whatever, and then you're driving around out there, and you see that some Mustang was stuck out there for probably 3 days, and they towed him out because there's a trench where they drug him out of the salt because it looks hard, and when you walk on it, it's hard, but when you put a 2,200 pound Mustang on it, it sinks into the ground, and you're like, oh crap. And so you see all these places where people ditched out, and you're like, oh my god. But Yeah, really interesting though.
I'm gonna check it out.
All right, I think we're down to the okay. What are your hopes and dreams for your family? Your family.
Like my parents?
Whomever you consider family.
Definitely my parents, my sister. So my sister and I are working on a small coffee startup. I hope that we can...
Is it in a Sprinter van?
No, I
That'd
wish.
be pretty cool.
Oh, that would be cool.
You could do like the taco truck style.
Coffee startup, yeah. It's online right now, e-commerce, and we'll sell beans online and then eventually start a cafe.
So she grow her own beans?
No, we're looking for a roaster. Talking to a couple of different... It's a long process. It's very interesting. Learning a lot about coffee, which is great because I love it.
You caffeinate every day?
Yes. I'm a big caffeine fan. Better than some other stimulants out there. I like the flavor of it too. Like,
yeah, some of them. What do you think about the news when they get on and propagandize coffee? They're like, "Oh, did you know?" There's that one meme, but I'm not going to get to it. But there's like CBS Evening News will like every 3 months will be like, coffee increases your life by 3 years. Did you know that? And I'm like, is that true, Scott Pelley, or are you just paid to say that?
Oh, those types of studies too, they always... I take it with a grain of salt. I do my own research. I think that's one of the biggest things that people can do is just educate themselves and realize that just because you hear something, fact check it.
The best... I think the best propaganda for coffee right now is that meme going around, and it's a video, and they're pouring what you think is green tea, and they're like, "Did you know that drinking green tea in the morning will increase your odds by 85% of like having a bad day or something like that?" It's hilarious. I ruined it. I butchered it.
Yeah.
I butchered that, but
ultimately though, I'd like to get to a place where I could build a house and have the mother-in-law suite for my parents, and I really want to take care of my parents in their old age. You know, they gave everything, their entire retirement, so I could live my dream of racing off road, and I want to give it back to them. I do, and so that's something that keeps me driven as well, to know that I will one day be able to provide for them.
I mean, they have to be proud of you at this point. Can't imagine they would be like in any way not. Excuse me, did your parents, so they got you into off-road racing, you showed a lot of appeal and growth quickly, and you were good, and you were racing the boys, right? And you were winning or placing. Was there like a moment when your like dad was like gleaming? Was he like so proud at that point?
Oh my gosh, yeah. The amount of times that...
Because race parents
are the jam, right? Like they're a different breed.
They are pouring money into their children.
Pouring money and pouring everything they have into it. And like, you know, my favorite part about racing has nothing to do with being on the track. It definitely has to be the weeks in between races where my dad and I would be in the garage, and you know, those little 2-stroke motors on a mini quad, we would build the top end in one of those, and he got it down to where he could rebuild the top end in the mini quad in like 20 minutes. It was really cool, but like I remember he taught me how to replace the rings on a piston and put the piston back in and reconnect it to the crank and put the head back on just right to where the piston won't knock it. And it's like, those days are irreplaceable, you know. That quality time with my dad, definitely irreplaceable.
Up until the accident, were you lining yourself up to go AMA, like, and get your pro license and do all of that? Because, I mean, you seem like the type who could.
I switched to dirt bikes.
Right.
I raced my first, the Southern Series that's like down in Georgia. I raced one of those on a bike, and it was my first time getting out and actually racing the dirt bike.
Was that in Clyde or Durham Town?
I want to say Durham Town. But I was transitioning, and I was in a very different point. I think the hardest part about the accident definitely was I was my dad's son, essentially.
Right.
And that got taken away. So I would help him with yard work. I'd help him cut logs and stack them and do those type of things. And I think that was the hardest part for both of us after the injury.
I bet. All right, last question. Well, hold on. Charmaine, do you have any final thoughts?
No, thank you for coming in. It was a very interesting story, you know. I don't have anything.
Nothing? Okay. Do you have any final thoughts for the program?
You know, I appreciate your guys' time tonight and having me. if anyone gained value from this, go ahead and share it with a friend, share it with family. If you feel like you know someone that can gain value, do the same thing. And just let go of judgment, let go of every idea of who you think you should be, where you think your life should be, and just put in the work every day to continue to improve 1% better every day. Don't focus so much on the big picture, but just the small pieces that get you there.
All right. Well, thank you, Jesi.
Thank you, Josh.
I'm Josh Lloyd, and you're on the Ridge. That's good. Shake hands?
Very good.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Firm. That's good.
Lasting impression.
Yes.